Hello everyone, and welcome to the Fictional Vortex. So we are back with an interesting movie on what if Naruto awakened the 5 sealed elemental powers Naruto x Tsunade. But before we start, I just want to remind you to please subscribe to my channel and hit the like button if you enjoy my content. Let's start the story. Chapter 1. Awakening Embers. The forest ignited with golden light as dawn broke over the land of fire. Naruto Uzumaki perched on a weathered branch, sweat beading across his brow despite the morning chill. 3 hours of intensive training had left his muscles trembling. But he pushed through the familiar burn with gritted determination. 2 years after the 4th Great Ninja War, peace had settled across the shinobi nations like a comfortable blanket, comfortable, but sometimes stifling for someone accustomed to constant battle. Still not right, he muttered, forming the hand signs again. The wind-style Rasengan expanded between his palms, swirling with chaotic energy. For weeks now, his chakra control had been erratic, sometimes overflowing with power that cracked trees and carved furrows into the earth, other times flickering and dying like a candle in a storm. Something fundamental had changed in his chakra network, something beyond the usual fluctuations caused by the 9 tails. As the jutsu expanded, an unexpected sensation burned through his veins. Not the cool rush of wind chakra, but something scalding and primal. The Rasengan's pale blue shifted to angry crimson, then exploded in a violent burst that sent him tumbling backward. What the hell? Naruto shook his singed hands, watching as the burns healed almost instantly. That wasn't 9 tails chakra. A distant bell tolled 6 times, pulling him from his thoughts. He was due at the Hokage's office in an hour, another diplomatic mission briefing. Since Kakashi had taken the position of 6th Hokage, he'd been increasingly relying on Naruto for sensitive diplomatic work. The irony wasn't lost on him, the village pariah now its most trusted ambassador. With one last glance at the scorched training ground, Naruto leapt into the canopy inn. D began making his way back to the village. The strange heat lingered in his chakra pathways like embers refusing to die. The Hokage Tower bustled with the organized chaos that defined Konoha's administration since Tsunade had stepped down. Though no longer Hokage, she maintained an office in the complex, continuing her medical research and serving as special advisor. It was her door, not Kakashi's, that Naruto found himself standing before. He raised his hand to knock when a sharp pain lanced through his chest, doubling him over. His knuckles hit the door as he braced himself against the frame. "Enter," came Tsunade's authoritative voice. Naruto straightened, pushing the pain aside as he stepped into the office. Sunlight streamed through tall windows, illuminating scrolls and med.Ical text stacked in organized disarray. Tsunade stood examining a specimen under a microscope, her blonde hair gathered loosely at her nape, lab coat draped over her traditional green haori. "You're early for once," she remarked without looking up, "and judging by your chakra signature, something's wrong." "How can you tell?" Naruto asked, genuinely surprised. Tsunade finally turned, amber eyes narrowing as they swept over him. At 36, she maintained her youthful appearance through her creation rebirth technique, but the slight furrow between her brows had become permanent, a mark of the burdens she'd carried. "I was training you to sense chakra irregularities before you could form a proper Rasengan," she replied dryly. "Sit down before you fall down." Naruto complied, sinking into the chair across from her desk. "It's probably nothing. Just some weird chakra fluctuations. Been happening for a couple weeks. And you're just mentioning it now." Tsunade's voice sharpened with professional concern as she crossed to him. "Shirt off. Is that really now, Naruto?" He sighed and removed his black and orange jacket, then the mesh armor beneath. At 19, his body had finished its transformation from gangly teenager to hardened shinobi. Lean muscle wrapped his frame, and a collection of scars, those few wounds even the 9 tails couldn't heal without leaving a mark, told the story of his battles. Tsunade's hands glowed with diagnostic chakra as she placed them on his bare chest. The contact sent another wave of heat surging through his network, and Naruto inhaled sharply. "There it is again," he said through clenched teeth. Tsunade's eyes widened fractionally. "Your chakra just reacted to mine." She pressed her palms more firmly against his sternum, sending careful pulses of medical chakra through his system. It's not the nine tails. This is something else entirely. What do you mean, something else? Naruto asked, trying to ignore the uncomfortable awareness of her proximity. In the years since the war, their relationship had evolved from antagonistic tolerance to mutual respect and genuine fondness, but physical closeness still felt strangely intimate. Your primary chakra nature is wind, Tsunade murmured, focused on her examination. But I'm detecting fire-natured chakra accumulating around your heart. Strong fire chakra, more concentrated than I've ever seen in someone without that affinity. She stepped back, brow furrowed in concentration. And it's not just present, it's active, like it's trying to ignite something. That would explain why my wind techniques keep exploding, Naruto said, pulling his shirt back on. Could it be some delayed effect from the war? Or maybe something to do with the Six Paths power? Tsunade shook her head. This feels different, more primal somehow. She moved to a bookshelf, fingers trailing along ancient spines until she found the volume she sought. There are legends about shinobi manifesting secondary chakra natures spontaneously, but it's typically a gradual process, not this kind of sudden eruption. So what do we do? For now, we monitor it. I want you to come see me daily for examinations. She fixed him with a stern look that brooked no argument. And no missions until we understand what's happening. But Kakashi's sending me to meet the stone delegation tomorrow. Kuretsuchi's bringing some kind of important proposal about restructuring border patrols. Tsunade crossed her arms, considering. Fine, but it's a diplomatic mission only. No combat, no training. And absolutely no pushing your limits. One sign of trouble, and you send word immediately. Before Naruto could respond, the door burst open. Shizune stood in the threshold, face pale with urgency. Lady Tsunade, there's been an incident at the north gate. 2 Jonin down, 1 critically injured. They're saying the attacker used some kind of forbidden jutsu, turned their own chakra against them. Tsunade was already moving, grabbing her medical pack. Prepare the emergency surgical suite. Naruto, we'll continue this discussion later. I'm coming with you, he said, falling into step beside her. Her glance was sharp but assessing. Fine, but observe only. I mean it, Naruto, no heroics until we understand what's happening with your chakra. The hospital emergency ward churned with controlled chaos. Medical ninja rushed between beds, hands glowing with healing chakra as they stabilized the injured Jonin. Naruto stood back, watching Tsunade work with the precision and focus that had made her legendary. Her hands moved with surgical grace over the most critically injured shinobi, Katetsu Hagane, one of the regular gate guards. Chakra pathways severely burned, she murmured to the attending medical ninja. It's like someone poured molten metal through his network. Shizune, prepare the cellular regeneration solution. From his position near the wall, Naruto could sense the damage. Katetsu's chakra flickered weakly, its normal flow disrupted by what appeared to be foreign energy still actively attacking his system. There's something still inside him, Naruto said, stepping forward. Some kind of residual chakra that doesn't belong. Tsunade glanced up sharply. You can sense that from there. Naruto nodded, approaching the operating table. It's hot, like what I've been feeling. But different, more controlled, deliberate. Can you isolate it? Show me exactly where it's concentrated. Without thinking, Naruto placed his hand near, but not touching, Katetsu's chest. As he focused on the foreign chakra, the burning sensation in his own network intensified. Suddenly, his palm glowed with orange-red energy. There, he said, indicating a spot near Katetsu's heart. It's like a seed of fire, spreading through his pathways. Tsunade's eyes narrowed with professional interest. That's exactly where the damage is most severe, but none of our diagnostic jutsu could pinpoint the source. She studied Naruto's glowing hand. How are you doing that? I don't know, he admitted. It just responded when I focused on the foreign chakra. A sudden instinct seized him. Naruto placed his palm directly on Katetsu's chest, and the fire chakra flowed from his hand into the injured ninja. Instead of causing more damage, however, it seemed to seek out the foreign energy. Neutralizing it on contact, Katetsu's vitals immediately stabilized, his breathing evening out as the monitors showed his condition improving. Extraordinary, Tsunade breathed, watching the readings normalize. You just extracted the hostile chakra by countering it with your own. Naruto withdrew his hand, flexing fingers that tingled with residual heat. It was like my chakra recognized it somehow. Knew exactly what to do. Which shouldn't be possible without years of medical training, Tsunade pointed out. She turned to the other medical ninja. Continue stabilization procedures. I need to examine this chakra sample immediately. She led Naruto to a separate laboratory, closing the door behind them. Hold out your hand. Naruto extended his palm, where a small wisp of foreign chakra still danced like a captured flame. Tsunade passed her diagnostic jutsu over it, her expression growing increasingly troubled. This isn't standard fire-style chakra, she said finally. It's more concentrated, more fundamental somehow. Almost like the essence of fire itself rather than a manipulation of it. Could it be connected to what's happening to me? That's exactly what concerns me. Tsunade moved to a secure cabinet, unlocking it with a complex sequence of hand signs. From within, she withdrew a weathered scroll sealed with 5 distinct elemental markings. This was in the restricted section of the Hokage archives. I came across it during my time as 5th Hokage but never had reason to study it deeply. She unrolled it carefully on the examination table. It contains legends of the 5 primal elements, not just the chakra natures we use in jutsu, but their original, pure forms. The scroll depicted 5 distinct symbols arranged in a circle, with ancient text flowing between them. At the center was a figure that looked disturbingly like a Jinchuriki, surrounded by elemental manifestations. According to this, Tsunade continued, the pure elemental chakras were once entities in their own right, spirits or forces that existed before humans learned to manipulate chakra. They were eventually sealed into a single vessel to prevent them from causing natural disasters. Naruto studied the faded illustrations. You think these elemental spirits are what's causing the attacks? And what's happening to me? I think it's possible that someone has found a way to manipulate pure elemental chakra, Tsunade replied carefully. As for your condition, she met his gaze directly. Your body has contained the 9 tails since birth. You've merged with the chakra of all 9-tailed beasts. If anyone could unconsciously awaken a connection to primordial chakra, it would be you. A knock at the door interrupted them. Shizune entered, her expression grave. Azumo is conscious. He's described the attacker. Male, approximately 30, wearing a forehead protector with no village symbol but a flame insignia instead. He used no hand signs but was able to manipulate fire in ways Azumo's never seen. Did he say anything? Give any indication of his purpose? Tsunade asked. Shizune nodded. According to Azumo, he asked one question. Where is the vessel of the 5? When they didn't understand, he attacked. Naruto and Tsunade exchanged concerned glances. The vessel of the 5, Naruto repeated. 5 elements. It could be coincidence, Tsunade said. But her tone suggested she didn't believe it. We need more information before jumping to conclusions. She rolled up the scroll carefully. For now, this stays between us. If someone is hunting people with connections to these elemental powers, the last thing we need is panic. What about the stone delegation tomorrow? Should we postpone? Tsunade considered this. No, maintaining diplomatic relations is crucial, especially now. But I'm modifying your mission parameters. Rather than just receiving their proposal, I want you to discreetly inquire about any unusual elemental phenomena in Earth Country. You think this is happening elsewhere too? I think we'd be fools not to consider it. Tsunade's gaze was thoughtful. And I'm coming with you to meet the delegation. Naruto raised an eyebrow. You never attend these diplomatic meetings. I do when they coincide with medical concerns. She gestured to his chest. Consider yourself my patient, Naruto. Where you go, I go. At least until we understand what's happening. The stone delegation arrived precisely at noon the following day, a small but formidable group led by Kuretsuchi, granddaughter of the 3rd Tsuchikage. At 23, she had established herself as one of the Stone Village's most capable kunoichi and was widely expected to succeed her grandfather as Tsuchikage in the coming years. Naruto and Tsunade waited at the village gates with Kakashi and a small honor guard. The summer heat pressed down on them, unusually oppressive for early June, and Naruto felt the fire chakra within him responding to the ambient warmth, swirling more actively through his pathways. You're flushed, Tsunade murmured beside him. Is it acting up again? It's getting stronger, he confirmed quietly. Like it's feeding off the heat. Before Tsunade could respond, the delegation came into view. Kuretsuchi led the group, her short black hair catching the sunlight as she approached. She wore the traditional Stone Village attire, a red uniform with the right sleeve missing and mesh armor visible beneath, but carried herself with a diplomat's poise rather than a warrior's tension. Hokage-sama, she greeted Kakashi with a respectful bow. Lady Tsunade, Naruto. The Stone Village extends its continued friendship to Konoha. Welcome, Kuretsuchi-san, Kakashi replied warmly. We're honored by your visit and look forward to productive discussions. As formalities were exchanged, Naruto noticed Kuretsuchi studying him with unusual intensity. When their eyes met, she didn't look away but instead offered a knowing half-smile that suggested some private amusement. I must say, she commented as they began walking toward the Hokage Tower, I'm surprised to see you both here, Lady Tsunade, Naruto. Border patrol negotiations don't usually warrant the attention of a former Hokage and a war hero. Naruto has been handling most of our inter-village diplomacy, Kakashi explained smoothly. And Lady Tsunade has been researching the long-term effects of the war on chakra systems, something I believe might interest your medical corps as well. Kuretsuchi nodded, but her gaze lingered on Naruto. Yes, chakra abnormalities have become something of a concern lately, haven't they? The deliberate emphasis wasn't lost on Naruto. Have you been experiencing issues in the Stone Village? He asked directly. Something flickered in her dark eyes. Recognition, perhaps, or confirmation. Perhaps we should discuss such matters in private. After the official negotiations, of course. The remainder of the walk passed with polite conversation about reconstruction efforts and trade agreements. Naruto remained uncharacteristically quiet, aware of both Tsunade's concert. Ned glances and Kuretsuchi's evaluating ones. The fire chakra simmered beneath his skin, reacting strangely each time Kuretsuchi moved closer, as if recognizing something in her own chakra signature. Inside the Hokage's office, the formal negotiations proceeded efficiently. Kuretsuchi presented a detailed proposal for joint border patrols that would reduce military expenditure for both villages while improving security. The terms were reasonable, the logistics sound, and by mid-afternoon, preliminary agreements had been reached. This calls for a celebration, Kakashi declared, setting aside the signed documents. We've arranged a small reception at the Sarutobi estate this evening. Until then, perhaps you'd like to rest after your journey. Actually, Kuretsuchi said, if Naruto and Lady Tsunade are available, I'd appreciate discussing some medical observations our village has been cataloging. Nothing urgent, just professional exchange. Kakashi glanced at Tsunade, who nodded almost imperceptibly. Of course, he agreed. You can use the East Conference room. I have some matters to attend to with the rest of the delegation. As the others filed out, Naruto, Tsunade, and Kuretsuchi remained behind. The moment the door closed, the stone kunoichi's diplomatic veneer shifted to intense focus. It's happening to you too, isn't it? She asked without preamble. The elemental awakening. Naruto exchanged a startled look with Tsunade. What do you know about it? Kuretsuchi rolled up her sleeve, revealing a pattern of discolored skin running from wrist to shoulder. Unlike a burn or scar, it seemed to shift slightly, the flesh taking on the textured appearance of stone when she channeled chakra to it. It started 3 weeks ago, she explained. At first, I thought Chi was just enhanced earth-style chakra. I've always had strong earth affinity. But this is different, more powerful, more alive somehow. The pure elemental chakra, Tsunade murmured, examining Kuretsuchi's arm with professional interest. Just as I suspected, you're manifesting earth in its primal form. And he's manifesting fire. Kuretsuchi nodded toward Naruto. I could sense it the moment I saw you. It's like recognizing a reflection, but in a different element. How many others? Tsunade asked sharply. In our village, 2 confirmed cases. One with water manifestation, one with wind. Both Jonin-level shinobi with previously strong affinity for those elements. Kuretsuchi's expression darkened. The water user died last week. The manifestation progressed too quickly, his body couldn't adapt. His chakra network literally dissolved. And the wind user, stabilized, but in constant pain. Our medical ninja are attempting to suppress the elemental chakra, but conventional methods have limited effect. Naruto felt cold despite the fire burning in his veins. You're saying this could kill me? Not necessarily, Tsunade interjected. Your body has adapted to the Nine Tails chakra since infancy. You've contained and harmonized with the chakra of all nine-tailed beasts. Your capacity for chakra adaptation exceeds anyone else's. That's why I needed to speak with you specifically, Kuretsuchi said. Our researchers uncovered ancient texts describing 5 elemental vessels, individuals capable of containing and wielding the pure elemental chakras without being consumed by them. She turned to Naruto. We believe you may be one such vessel. Why me? Just because I'm a Jinchuriki. Not just that. According to our records, elemental vessels tend to appear during times of great chakra disruption, like the aftermath of a war involving the 10 tails. Kuretsuchi's gaze was steady, and they typically have Uzumaki blood. Tsunade's eyes widened. The Uzumaki clan's special chakra, of course. Their vitality and longevity, their sealing techniques, they weren't just random traits. They were adaptations for containing powerful chakra sources. Exactly, Kuretsuchi confirmed. Our records indicate that every few generations, an Uzumaki would manifest the ability to channel pure elemental chakra. Not all 5 elements simultaneously, that's unprecedented, but at least one. Naruto ran a hand through his hair, trying to process the implications. So what happens now? How do I control this? That's why I'm here, Kuretsuchi said. The border patrol proposal is legitimate. But my grandfather sent me specifically because of my Earth manifestation. He believes that elemental vessels might be able to help stabilize each other. A mutual resonance effect, Tsunade mused. It's theoretically sound. Complementary chakra types can sometimes balance each other. We can test the theory now, Kuretsuchi suggested, extending her hand to Naruto. A simple chakra exchange. If I'm right, your fire and my earth should reach a natural equilibrium when they connect. Naruto glanced at Tsunade, who nodded cautiously. Controlled environment, minimal chakra. I'll monitor both of you. Taking a deep breath, Naruto grasped Kuretsuchi's outstretched hand. The effect was immediate and intense. Fire chakra surged from his core, racing down his arm toward their connected hands. While he could feel her earth chakra doing the same. Where they met, instead of conflict, the two energies began a swirling dance, each tempering the other. The relief was palpable, for the first time in weeks. The burning pressure in Naruto's chest eased, his chakra network cooling to a comfortable warmth rather than a raging inferno. It's working, he breathed, watching. As their joined hands glowed with a harmonious orange-brown light. Yes, Kuretsuchi agreed, her usual composure briefly replaced by wonder. The pain is gone. Tsunade circled them, her diagnostic jutsu active as she observed the interaction. Fascinating. Your chakra signatures are actually synchronizing, creating a balanced matrix that neither could achieve alone. After several minutes, they reluctantly separated. The balancing effect lingered, though Naruto could feel the fire chakra slowly beginning to build again. The effect is temporary, Kuretsuchi noted, flexing her arm where the stone-like texture had receded. But significant. With regular contact, elemental vessels could potentially stabilize each other indefinitely. Which explains why someone might be hunting them, Tsunade said grimly. If you control the vessels, you control the elements themselves. The attacker at our gate, Naruto realized. He was looking for the vessel of the 5. He must have sensed my awakening somehow. And he wore a flame insignia, Tsunade added, suggesting fire affinity or allegiance. Kuretsuchi's expression hardened. There have been similar attacks near our borders. Individuals targeting shinobi with unusually strong elemental affinities. We've been calling them elemental hunters, but we know almost nothing about their organization or purpose. We need to alert the other villages, Naruto said. If there are other vessels awakening, they're in danger. Agreed, but discreetly, Tsunade cautioned. Mass panic about new Kekkei Genkei or forbidden technique. Would destabilize the peace we've worked so hard to establish. My grandfather suggests a summit, Kuretsuchi said. Not public, but a gathering of potential vessels and medical experts from each village. Neutral ground, with the highest security. The land of iron, Naruto suggested immediately. The samurai have no stake in shinobi politics but maintain the strongest neutral security forces. Tsunade nodded approvingly. I'll speak with Kakashi about arrangements. In the meantime, she fixed them both with a stern look. You two will work together on chakra stabilization techniques. Naruto, you'll continue daily medical examinations with me. Kuretsuchi, I'd like to thoroughly document your condition while you're here. Of course, the stone kunoichi agreed. My grandfather anticipated this request. She reached into her pack, withdrawing a sealed scroll. These are the medical records of both our cases, including autopsy findings from our water user. He hoped they might help your research. Tsunade accepted the scroll with a respectful nod. Please convey my thanks. This kind of medical cooperation transcends village boundaries. A sudden crash from outside interrupted them. Shouting voices and the distinctive sound of jutsu being deployed echoed from the direction of the main gate. Stay here, Tsunade ordered, moving toward the door. Naruto and Kuretsuchi exchanged a single glance before simultaneously responding, not happening. They followed Tsunade through the corridors and onto the street, where civilians were already being evacuated by Chunin squads. In the distance, plumes of smoke rose from the northern sector. Another attack, Naruto asked a passing Anbu. Single intruder, the masked ninja confirmed. Extremely powerful fire techniques. He broke through the outer barrier like it was paper. 4 Jonin down already. The elemental hunter, Kuretsuchi muttered. He must have tracked me here. Naruto felt the fire chakra surging in response to the threat. No longer painful but energizing. Or he's still looking for me. Either way, we need to contain this situation, Tsunade said. Naruto, remember what I said about no combat. With all due respect, Lady Tsunade. He interrupted, blue eyes blazing with determination. If this guy is after elemental vessels, then Kuretsuchi and I are the best equipped to handle him. Our chalk. Ra is literally the same type he's using. Tsunade recognized the expression. The same unflinching resolve that had faced down Madara, Kagaya, and countless other threats. She sighed. Fine, but I'm coming with you as medical support. And you work together. No solo heroics. Wouldn't dream of it. Naruto grinned, the prospect of action after weeks of restraint clearly energizing him. They moved swiftly toward the disturbance, leaping across rooftops until they reached the northern commercial district. The scene below was chaotic. Market stalls ablaze, civilians being hustled to safety by Chunin, and a contingent of Jonin forming a defensive perimeter around a single figure. The attacker stood calmly amid the destruction, hands empty at his sides. He wore simple black clothing with a red flame emblem embroidered on the chest. His forehead protector bore the same flame insignia Azumo had described. Most striking were his eyes, amber irises with vertical pupils, like a cat's, glowing with internal fire. I will not ask again, his voice carried clearly despite the commotion. Bring me the vessel of the 5, or I will reduce this section to ash. To demonstrate his intent, he exhaled gently. A stream of fire erupted from his lips without hand signs, immolating a row of buildings instantly. That's not standard fire style, Kuretsuchi murmured. That's pure manipulation. Just like you described, Naruto agreed. He formed a familiar cross-shaped hand sign. Shadow Clone Jutsu. A dozen clones appeared, immediately dispersing to evacuate remaining civilians and support the defensive perimeter. The original Naruto, flanked by Tsunade and Kuretsuchi, dropped to street level 30 meters from the attacker. The man turned, cat-like eyes narrowing with interest. Ah, he said softly. Not one, but 2 vessels. How efficient. Who are you? Naruto demanded. What do you want? I am Kagami of the Eternal Flame, the man replied with unnerving politeness. As foe, are what I want. I seek to restore the natural order. The pure elements were never meant to be contained within human vessels. They belong to the world itself. These awakenings are happening naturally, Tsunade countered. No one is forcing the elements into containment. Kagami's smile was pitying. You understand so little, Lady Hokage. The elements are not awakening. They are being drawn forth by the disruption in natural energy caused by the Fourth War. Like calls to like. They seek to return to their pure state, but these imperfect vessels, he gestured dismissively toward Naruto and Kuretsuchi, cannot possibly contain them properly. And I suppose you can. Naruto challenged. I don't seek to contain fire, Kagami said. I seek to free it. As my companions seek to free earth, water, wind, and lightning. We are the elemental equilibrium, guardians of the natural order. By attacking villages and killing innocent people. Kuretsuchi's voice dripped with disdain. Some guardians. Kagami's expression hardened. Sacrifices are necessary. The alternative is far worse. He fixed his gaze on Naruto. You, Uzumaki, present the greatest threat. A single vessel potentially capable of containing all 5 pure elements would disrupt the balance irreparably. I didn't ask for this, Naruto shot back. But I'm not going to let you hurt anyone else because of some twisted ideology. Then we have nothing more to discuss. Kagami's form blurred, and suddenly the air around them superheated to near unbearable levels. Kuretsuchi reacted instantly, slamming her palm into the ground. Earth-style. Terra shield. A massive wall of stone erupted between them and Kagami just as a wave of fire washed over it. The stone glowed red-hot but held, enhanced by Kuretsuchi's pure earth chakra. He's fast, Tsunade warned. Scanning for movement. And he's not using standard jutsu. There are no hand signs, no chakra buildup I can detect before his attacks. Because it's not jutsu, Naruto realized. It's direct elemental manipulation. Like the tailed beasts control their elements. A section of the stone wall suddenly liquefied, melting into slag as Kagami stepped through the opening. His body appeared to shimmer with heat distortion. Perceptive, he acknowledged. The pure elements respond to will and intent, not the artificial constructs of hand signs and jutsu names. He gestured casually, and a spiral of flame encircled them, cutting off escape routes. Naruto felt the fire chakra within him responding to the external flames, resonating with them. Without conscious thought, he extended his hand toward the fire wall. The flames wavered, then bent toward him as if drawn by magnetic force. Impossible, Kagami whispered, genuine shock crossing his features. Quote, you cannot control my flames without full awakening. I'm not controlling them, Naruto replied, equally surprised by what was happening. I'm connecting with them. The fire spiraled toward Naruto's outstretched hand, shrinking and concentrating until it formed a pulsing orb of flame hovering above his palm. The sensation was similar to forming a Rasengan, but instead of molding chakra, he was simply providing a focal point for existing energy. Kagami recovered quickly, his shocked expression replaced by cold calculation. So the legends are true. Your potential exceeds even our worst fears. His hands finally formed a complex sequence of signs. This ends now, before you can fully awaken. Look out, Kuretsuchi shouted, recognizing the technique. That's a forbidden fire temple jutsu. Fire style. Phoenix consumption seal. A massive bird-shaped flame erupted from Kagami, diving toward Naruto with talons extended. Unlike normal fire techniques, this one seemed to target chakra specifically, designed to burn away a victim's chakra network entirely. Time slowed as the fiery phoenix descended. Naruto knew instinctively that dodging wouldn't work. The jutsu would track his chakra signature. Countering with wind techniques would only strengthen the flames. In that suspended moment, he felt the fire chakra within him pulse once, then surge outward of its own volition. From deep within his consciousness came a voice he'd never heard before, ancient, powerful, and undeniably female. My flames will not consume my vessel. I reject your corruption of my essence, pretender. Fire erupted from every pore of Naruto's body, not burning him but enveloping him in a protective cocoon. When the Phoenix Jutsu struck this barrier, instead of intensifying, the two fires met to war with each other, one corrupt and consuming, one pure and protective. What is this? Kagami hissed, pouring more chakra into his technique. No vessel has ever manifested elemental consciousness this early. The competing fires created a vortex of superheated air that forced Tsunade and Kuretsuchi back. Through the whirling flames, they could see Naruto suspended at the center, eyes closed in concentration or communion. His chakra is transforming, Tsunade observed, her medical senses extended to their limit. The fire element is fully integrating with his natural chakra network. Complete primary awakening, Kuretsuchi murmured. Our records mentioned this was possible, but no one's witnessed it in centuries. Within the vortex, Naruto stood transfixed as awareness expanded beyond his physical body. He could feel every flame in Konoha, from cooking fires to forges to the contained inferno of Kagami's techniques. More importantly, he could feel the consciousness behind his own fire chakra, ancient, wise, and surprisingly nurturing despite its destructive potential. You called me forth, the voice explained. Not with jutsu or seals, but with need and affinity. I have slumbered within the Uzumaki line for generations, waiting for one with the capacity to hear my voice. What are you? Naruto asked within this mental space. I am fire in its purest form, not the element shinobi manipulate, but the primordial force that existed before humans walked the earth. I am one of the 5, sealed long ago to prevent catastrophe when the elements warred among themselves. And now you've awakened in me. In part, yes. But I am merely the first. The others stir as well, sensing my awakening. Water, earth, wind, lightning, all will seek to manifest in time. All 5 elements, in me. It is your heritage and burden as the last true Uzumaki with the capacity for multiple elemental harmony. But now you must act. This corrupt flame wielder threatens what is yours to protect. The mental exchange occurred in milliseconds. Naruto opened his eyes, now glowing with inner fire, and stepped forward through the vortex. With each step, the chaotic flames calmed and aligned to his will. Impossible, Kagami whispered, his confidence visibly shaken. No one has fully harmonized with an element in millennia. I don't fully understand what's happening either, Naruto replied, his voice overlaid with harmonic resonance. But I know you're threatening my village and my friends. He raised his hand, and the fires surrounding them responded instantly, condensing into a perfect sphere above his palm. And that ends now. The sphere expanded, not with the explosive force of a combat jutsu, but with the inexorable power of nature itself. It enveloped Kagami before he could retreat, containing rather than consuming him. Release me, the elemental hunter demanded, his own flames ineffective within Naruto's perfect control. You cannot maintain this level of manipulation. It will burn you from within. Actually, Tsunade stepped forward, her diagnostic jutsu active as she examined Naruto. His chakra network is stabilizing, not deteriorating. The integration is progressing naturally. Kuretsuchi approached cautiously, her stone-textured arm resonating with the earth beneath them. Our records were incomplete. The vessels aren't meant to contain the elements against their will, they're meant to partner with them. Symbiosis, not imprisonment. Kagami's struggles weakened as Naruto maintained the containing sphere. Your elemental equilibrium has it backwards. Naruto told him. The elements aren't being imprisoned, they're choosing compatible partners to prevent the kind of chaos you're creating. With a gesture, Naruto compressed the sphere further, restricting Kagami's movements without harming him. This is over. You're going to answer for the shinobi you've injured and killed. Anbu operatives had arrived during the confrontation and now moved in to secure the prisoner with specialized chakra-suppressing restraints. As Kagami was led away, he looked back once, his cat-like eyes fixed on Naruto. This is only beginning, vessel of the 5, he called. The others will come for you. And not all elements are as nurturing as fire. In the aftermath, the northern district was secured, injuries treated, and damages assessed. Kakashi had been briefed on the situation, and emergency protocols established for dealing with potential future attacks. As night fell, Naruto found himself in Tsunade's office once more, undergoing another examination while Kuretsuchi observed. The fire chakra has fully integrated with your natural network, Tsunade reported, her hands glowing as she mapped his chakra pathways. It's no longer fighting for dominance but working in harmony with your wind affinity. I can still feel it, Naruto said, but it's not burning anymore. More like a campfire instead of a forest fire. And you can communicate with it? Kuretsuchi asked, fascinated. Actually hear its voice. Naruto nodded. Not constantly, but when I focus on it. And it definitely feels female, explain. That she's been sealed within the Uzumaki bloodline for generations. Waiting for someone who could actually handle her power. Tsunade raised an eyebrow. The fire element has a feminine presence. Naruto explained with a slight shrug. I can't really describe it better than that. Fascinating, Kuretsuchi murmured. In our records, the elements were always described as impersonal forces, not conscious entities. Perhaps your records were written by observers, not vessels, Tsunade suggested. Or perhaps the elements present differently to each vessel. Naruto pulled his shirt back on. His movements more relaxed now that the constant burning had subsided. So what happens now? Kagami said the others would come for me. We proceed with the summit planning, Tsunade decided. Accelerated timeline. I'll speak with Kakashi tonight. And in the meantime, Kuretsuchi asked. In the meantime, you two continue working together on stabilization techniques. Now that Naruto's fire element has fully awakened, your earth element should respond more strongly to it. Tsunade gave them both a stern look. Controlled practice only. No pushing limits. What about the other elements? Naruto asked. If fire was just the first. One challenge at a time, Tsunade advised. Master fire completely before concerning yourself with what might come next. Her expression softened slightly. You've handled this remarkably well, Naruto. Most shinobi would be overwhelmed by such a sudden transformation. He grinned, some of his usual confidence returning. After the 9 tails, Sage Mode, and the 6 paths power. What's one more voice in my head? Despite her attempt at professional detachment, Tsunade smiled. That resilience is precisely why the element chose you. She gathered her notes. Get some rest. Both of you. Tomorrow we begin proper training protocols. As they left the office, Kuretsuchi fell into step beside Naruto. The evening air had cooled, stars emmer. Jing in the clear summer sky above Konoha. Your former Hokage seems particularly invested in your well-being, she observed with a hint of amusement. Beyond professional medical interest, Naruto glanced at her, surprised by the comment. Tsunade's always been protective of Konoha shinobi. And we've been through a lot together. Kuretsuchi's tone suggested she wasn't entirely convinced. Where I come from, when a woman monitors a man's chakra that closely, there's usually more than professional concern involved. It's not like that, Naruto protested, though he found himself inexplicably flustered. Tsunade's. She's. Attractive, powerful, clearly interested in your development. Kuretsuchi suggested innocently. Just an observation from an outsider's perspective. Before Naruto could formulate a response, she gestured to his chest. Your fire's responding to the conversation. Interesting. He looked down to find a faint orange glow visible through his shirt, the Phi chakra reacting to his emotional state. Still learning to control it, he muttered. Kuretsuchi laughed softly. Perhaps we should practice that stabilization technique again. Can't have you lie. Ching up every time someone mentions the former Hokage. As if on cue, the earth beneath their feet trembled slightly, stone texturing briefly rising on Kuretsuchi's exposed skin. And your earth responds when you're amused, Naruto observed, regaining his composure. Seems we both have control issues to work on. They reached the diplomatic guest quarters where the stone delegation was housed. Kuretsuchi paused at the entrance. Tomorrow, then, elemental training. Naruto nodded. I'll meet you at Training Ground 3 at sunrise. It's isolated enough for privacy but close enough for Tsunade to monitor if needed. Until tomorrow. She turned to go, then paused. Naruto. What Kagami said, about you being the vessel of all 5 elements. Do you think it's true? He considered the question, feeling the fire chakra pulse gently within him. I don't know, but if it is, I'll find a way to handle it. His expression turned determined. I won't let anyone use this power to hurt the people I care about, not Kagami. Not his organization, not even the elements themselves. Kuretsuchi studied him for a moment, then nodded. I believe you will. A small smile touched her lips. And she's precisely why the fire chose you first. Of all the elements, fire recognizes determination most clearly. With that cryptic observation, she disappeared into the building, leaving Naruto alone his thoughts and the comforting warmth of his newly awakened power. As he turned toward his own apartment, his enhanced senses caught a familiar chakra signature watching from a nearby rooftop. Tsunade, monitoring him even now. The fire within him pulsed again, but this time with something that wasn't quite heat, something more complex and unsettling. She fears for you, the fire voice murmured in his consciousness. But also sees your potential more clearly than most. Just professional concern, Naruto muttered, echoing his earlier protest to Kuretsuchi. The fire's response felt like amused laughter warming his chest. If you believe that, you understand humans even less than I do, and I've been sealed away for centuries. Naruto shook his head, pushing the commentary aside as he leapt to the rooftops. Moving swiftly toward home, tomorrow would bring new challenges, new training, and perhaps new insights into the extraordinary transformation reshaping his destiny. Above him, a lone hawk circled silently, its keen eyes fixed on the village below. Around its leg, a message cylinder bore the insignia of the Hidden Mist Village, urgent news traveling by the fastest means available. Within, a hastily scrawled report detailed the appearance of a woman controlling pure water, moving through the village like living rainfall, asking after a single individual. The Vessel of the Five. Chapter 1 End Chapter 2, Flowing Currents. Dawn painted the sky in hues of amber and crimson as Naruto circled his opponent. Sweat trickled down his temples while flames danced across his knuckles, not burning, but embracing his skin like old friends. 3 hours of intensive training had left his muscles screaming, yet the fire within burned brighter than ever. Again, Kuretsuchi commanded, her feet planted firmly on ground transformed to stone beneath her influence. Earth chakra rippled across her skin, giving her the appearance of living granite. This time, focus on temperature control, not just manifestation. Quote, Naruto inhaled deeply, communing with the fire consciousness that had awakened within him. 5 days had passed since their confrontation with Kagami, 5 days of rigorous training to master his newly awakened power. Intention shapes form, the fire voice whispered in his mind. I am not merely destruction, I am warmth, light, transformation. Feel these aspects and direct them. Concentrating on these concepts, Naruto extended his hand. The flames encasing his fingers cooled from white-hot to gentle orange, their heat diminishing without losing intensity. He directed this controlled fire toward a circle of stones Kuretsuchi had arranged, focusing on warming rather than melting them. Better, she nodded approvingly. You're thinking of fire as a weapon when you should view it as an extension of yourself, responsive to nuance, not just raw power. It goes against everything I've been taught, Naruto admitted, dispersing the flames with a thought. Fire jutsu is about explosive force, not subtlety. That's the difference between elemental jutsu and pure elemental manipulation. Tsunade's voice carried across the training ground as she approached, clipboard in hand. She'd been documenting every aspect of their training sessions with scientific precision. Jutsu forces elements into predetermined forms. What you're doing is collaborative creation. The morning sun caught in her honey blonde hair, creating a halo effect that momentarily distracted Naruto. Since his awakening, his perception had sharpened considerably, colors more vivid, details more distinct. Especially anything related to heat or light. The fire element seemed particularly attuned to Tsunade's presence, responding with gentle warmth whenever she was near. She burns with internal fire. The element observed within him. Not elemental, but life force, strong, resilient, undiminished by time. Focus, Naruto, Kuretsuchi's amused voice broke through his thoughts. Your chakra signature flares every time you get distracted. He blinked, realizing flames had unconsciously manifested around his hands again. Sorry, still working on the whole emotion affects manifestation thing. That's precisely why we're documenting these responses, Tsunade said, making another notation. Each element appears to respond differently to emotional stimuli. Kuretsuchi's earth manifestation increases with determination and stability, while your fire reacts to passion and focus. An embarrassment, Kuretsuchi added with a sly smile. Naruto cleared his throat. Let's try combat application again. I need to make this practical for field use. Agreed. Kuretsuchi shifted her stance, earth chakra solidifying around her forearms into stone gauntlets. Remember, no standard jutsu, pure elemental manipulation only. We need to develop these abilities independently from our trained techniques. They circled each other warily. Unlike traditional sparring, this exercise focused on elemental control rather than victory. Kuretsuchi struck first, stomping her foot to send a ripple of earth toward Naruto. Rather than dodging, he channeled fire to his feet, the heat creating a cushion of expanding air that propelled him upward. Good improvisation, Tsunade called, documenting the maneuver. Direct application of thermal principles. Suspended briefly, Naruto focused fire chakra to his palm, shaping it into a lasso-like configuration. The flaming cord extended toward Kuretsuchi, wrapping around a stone protrusion she'd created. Using this anchor point, he swung himself around in an arc, gathering momentum. Kuretsuchi responded by liquefying the stone, attempting to disrupt his swing. Naruto adapted instantly, transforming his fire lasso into a propulsion stream that changed his trajectory. He landed behind her, flames encircling his forearms without hand signs or verbal commands. "Your reaction time is improving," she noted, simultaneously raising a semicircle of earth as a barrier. "But you're still thinking sequentially rather than holistically. Meaning, fire exists in many states simultaneously," she explained, reinforcing her stone gauntlets. "It radiates, consumes, illuminates, and transforms all at once. You're still using it as a singular tool rather than an omnidirectional force." To demonstrate her point, she slammed her fists together. The stone gauntlets shattered into hundreds of pebbles that hung suspended for a moment before launching toward Naruto from multiple angles. Instinctively, he created a fire barrier, effective but taxing. Sweat beaded on his forehead as he maintained the shield against the stone barrage. "Feel me in all directions, the fire element urged. Not just forward, above, below, within." Understanding bloomed. Rather than projecting fire outward, Naruto allowed it to radiate from his core in all directions simultaneously. The flames expanded in a perfect sphere, incinerating the stone projectiles before they could reach him. "Now you're getting it," Kuretsuchi grinned, genuine pride in her voice. The elemental display abruptly faltered as Naruto clutched his chest, fire chakra fluctuating wildly. "Something's wrong," he gasped, dropping to one knee. "The fire, it's reacting to something." Tsunade was beside him instantly, diagnostic jutsu activated. "Your chakra network is destabilizing. The fire element is searching for something." "She approaches, the fire voice whispered urgently. "Water comes. Ancient, powerful, seeking." "Water," Naruto repeated, looking up at Tsunade with wide eyes. "The water element is coming." Before either woman could respond, a Jonin appeared at the training ground perimeter, urgency written across his features. "Lady Tsunade, Lord Hokage requests your immediate presence. There's been an incident at the eastern border. A messenger from the Hidden Mist has arrived with critical intelligence and significant injuries." Tsunade's gaze flicked between Naruto and the messenger. "Nature of injuries: severe chakra pathway damage, similar to what we observed in Katetsu, but reversed somehow. Like his chakra was frozen rather than burned." "We're coming," Naruto decided, struggling to his feet as the fire element settled into an uneasy simmer within him. "Are you stable?" Tsunade asked quietly, her hand on his arm providing both support and assessment. "Stable enough," he confirmed. "And if this involves another elemental manifestation, you might need me there." The emergency medical Ard was eerily reminiscent of their encounter with Kagami. Medical ninja worked frantically around a single patient, a young man wearing the torn and sodden uniform of the Hidden Mist's elite courier corps. His skin bore an unnatural bluish tinge, and visible ice crystals had formed along his chakra pathways. Sakura Haruno looked up from her position beside the patient, relief washing over her features at the sight of her mentor. "Lady Tsunade, thank goodness. His condition keeps deteriorating. The ice is spreading through his chakra network faster than we can thaw it." Tsunade moved immediately to the bedside, hands glowing with diagnostic chakra. "How long has he been like this?" "He arrived at our border checkpoint 30 minutes ago, already in this condition," Sakura reported. He nagged to deliver his message to the border guards before collapsing. "And the message?" Naruto asked, remaining near the door to avoid interfering with the medical team. Kakashi materialized beside him, his typical languid posture replaced by tense alertness. "Mei Terumi, the former Mizukage, has fled the Hidden Mist and is requesting asylum in Konoha. Apparently, she's manifesting some kind of advanced water manipulation that's causing political instability." "Another elemental awakening," Naruto murmured, feeling the fire within him pulse in response to this information. "That's our working theory," Kakashi confirmed. Watching Tsunade work, the courier also reported attacks by an organization calling themselves Elemental Equilibrium, including one member who manipulates water in its purest form. Sound familiar? Too familiar, Kuretsuchi interjected, having joined them silently. Same pattern as the fire user who attacked here and the earth manipulator who's been sighted near stone borders. Tsunade straightened, her expression grave. This courier was attacked by a pure water manipulator, not ice style or standard water jutsu. His chakra pathways are literally frozen from within. She turned to the medical team. Prepare the chakra circulation bypass. We need to reroute his network while gradually thawing the affected pathways. While the team rushed to comply, Tsunade approached Naruto and the others. This attack signature is nearly identical to what Kagami did with fire, but with opposite properties. Absolute cold rather than absolute heat. The water element's corrupted wielder. Naruto concluded, just like Kagami was fire's. If each elemental hunter can track their corresponding vessels, Kakashi mused, then Mei could be leading her hunter directly to us. Or directly to me, Naruto said quietly. If I'm potentially the vessel for all 5 elements, I'm the primary target. Tsunade's expression hardened with resolution. Then we prepare accordingly. Kakashi. Double the border patrols with specific orders to watch for water anomalies. Kuretsuchi. I'd appreciate your expertise in developing countermeasures based on what you've observed in Earth Country. Of course. The stone kunoichi nodded. And Naruto, Tsunade began. I know, he interrupted with a wry smile. Stay close, avoid unnecessary risks, and keep practicing control. The faintest hint of a smile touched her lips. You're learning, Lady Tsunade. Sakura called urgently from the patient's bedside. His core temperature is dropping again. Tsunade rushed back to the medical team, leaving Kakashi, Naruto, and Kuretsuchi to continue their discussion in lowered voices. How soon can we expect Mei to arrive? Naruto asked. Based on the courier's report, within 48 hours, Kakashi replied. She's traveling discreetly to avoid detection, using coastal routes rather than direct paths. And the water hunter, presumably in pursuit, though we have no way of knowing how close. Kuretsuchi frowned thoughtfully. If Mei has fully awakened as a water vessel, she may be able to sense her hunter's approach. My Earth manifestation allows me to detect other Earth manipulators within a certain radius. Can you detect Naruto's fire from a distance? Kakashi asked. Easily. Since his full awakening, his chakra signature burns like a beacon to those sensitive to elemental energy. She glanced at Naruto. It's likely why the courier reacted so strongly when brought near you. The opposing elements recognized each other. A commotion from the patient's bed drew their attention. The courier had regained consciousness and was attempting to speak despite the medical team's efforts to keep him still. The vessel, he gasped, eyes locked on Naruto with desperate intensity. She said, find the vessel of fire. Warn him, the hunter in the mist. Naruto approached cautiously, aware of Tsunade watching him closely. I'm here. What's the warning? The courier's hand shot out with surprising strength, grasping Naruto's wrist. Where they connected, steam rose as fire and water chakra reacted to each other. Not just hunting, harvesting. They take the essence when vessel dies. Quote, harvesting elemental chakra, Kuretsuchi repeated, alarm evident in her voice. That's theoretically impossible unless they've found a way to extract and contain pure elemental consciousness, Tsunade finished grimly. Which would explain why they're targeting awakened vessels rather than simply killing them. The courier's grip weakened, ice crystals advancing up his arm despite the medical team's best efforts. Lady Mei said, tell the vessel of fire, water comes to balance, not to fight. His eyes began to glaze. She carries the ancient scroll, the truth of the 5. Quote, with these cryptic words, he slipped back into unconsciousness, his breathing shallow but stabilizing as the medical jutsu finally took effect. Tsunade guided Naruto away from the bedside. His system is too compromised for further questioning. We'll have to wait for Mei herself to fill in the details. The ancient scroll, Naruto repeated thoughtfully. Something about the 5 elements' origins. Possibly. The Mist Village archives contain some of the oldest records in the shinobi world, predating the village system entirely. Tsunade ran a hand through her hair. A rare gesture of frustration. Knowledge I should have pursued more thoroughly during peacetime. You couldn't have anticipated elemental manifestations, Kakashi reassured her. Perhaps not, But ancient chakra phenomena should have remained on our research agenda even after the war. Her gaze drifted to Naruto, concern evident beneath her professional demeanor. Especially, given the Uzumaki clan's historical connection to sealing arts. Speaking of research, Kuretsuchi interjected, I received a message hawk from my grandfather this morning. Our archivists have uncovered additional records regarding elemental awakenings throughout history. They're being transcribed and sent via secure courier. Good, Tsunade nodded. Knowledge is our best defense right now. She turned to Kakashi. We should prepare contingencies in case Mei arrives with her hunter in close pursuit. Already underway, the 6th Hokage confirmed. I've dispatched Anbu teams to establish a perimeter 50 kilometers out. Any significant water-related anomalies will trigger immediate alerts. And I'll continue working with Naruto on elemental control, Kuretsuchi added. The more mastery he has over fire, the better positioned he'll be when water arrives. When, not if, Naruto noted. The fire element is certain of it. Tsunade studied him with analytical intensity. You're communicating with it more clearly now. It's more like awareness with occasional direct thoughts. Naruto struggled to articulate the strange symbiosis. Sometimes I just know things without being explicitly told. Fascinating, she murmured. We should document these communications more thoroughly. My office, 1 hour. I want to run additional tests while your fire element is actively responding to these developments. Tsunade's office had transformed over the past week, medical equipment now sharing space with ancient scrolls and elemental research materials. A specialized chakra, a monitoring array, normally reserved for Jinchuriki examinations, dominated one corner, its sensors calibrated to detect subtle fluctuations in elemental energy. Naruto sat shirtless on the examination table, electrodes attached to key tenketsu points across his torso. 5 days of intensive training had refined his physique further, muscle definition more pronounced from the constant elemental exertion. The fire element manifested as a subtle glow beneath his skin, concentrated around his heart but flowing through his entire chakra network. Your core temperature remains elevated at 101.2 degrees, Tsunade noted. Recording the measurement, yet you show no signs of physiological distress. It feels normal now, Naruto explained. Comfortable, even, like I was running cold before. Fascinating adaptation. She adjusted one of the sensors near his heart, her fingers brushing against his skin. The fire chakra visibly brightened at the contact, a reaction both observed clinically. Why? Our element responds to physical touch more strongly than other stimuli. Her life force resonates with flame, the fire voice commented. Strong, enduring, passionate beneath control. Naruto cleared his throat, pushing the element's observations aside. It responds to intensity in general, emotions, sensations, chakra proximity. Tsunade made another notation, her professional deem. Honor unwavering despite the element's visible reaction to her. Let's test elemental response to targeted stimuli. I'm going to channel specific chakra types near your network without direct contact. She formed a series of hand signs, conjuring a small sphere of green medical chakra above her palm. As she moved this closer to Naruto's chest, the fire element responded with curious tendrils, reacting toward but not aggressively engaging with the foreign energy. It's investigating, Naruto described, experiencing the element's reactions internally. Medical chakra feels neutral to it, Nate. Her threatening nor particularly interesting. Next, Tsunade produced standard water-natured chakra. The reaction was immediate and pronounced. Naruto's fire element flared defensively, creating a barrier between his core and the perceived opposition. Strong aversion, Tsunade observed, documenting the response. Yet the courier mentioned Mei saying, water comes to balance, not to fight. Sugas. Natural opposition doesn't necessarily mean conflict. Balance through opposition, Naruto mused. Like yin and yang. Precisely. Tsunade dispersed the water chakra, replacing it with earth-natured energy. This time, the fire responded with gentle acknowledgement, recognizing without either retreating or advancing. Compatible but not identical, similar to your interactions with Kuretsuchi's earth manifestation. She worked methodically through all 5 chakra natures, documenting each response. Wind chakra elicited eager intensification from the fire element, while lightning produced cautious respect, like acknowledging a distant relative with similar capabilities. Throughout the examination, Naruto found himself increasingly aware of Tsunade beyond her professional role. The fur-E element seemed to heighten his perception of her subtle expressions, the slight furrow between her brows when concentrating, the barely perceptible smile when observing something intriguing. Even her scent registered more distinctly, clean antiseptic underlying natural warmth with hints of the sake she occasionally indulged in. She contains contradictions, the fire observed. Healer and warrior, nurturing and formidable, past and future focused simultaneously. You're getting distracted again, Tsunade noted, observing the fluctuation in his chakra readings. The fire responds to your thoughts quite distinctly. Naruto refocused with effort. Sorry, the element tends to notice things about people, makes observations about me, Tsunade asked with professional curiosity, though something in her tone suggested personal interest beneath the scientific inquiry. About everyone, he hedged. It's constantly analyzing energy patterns, life forces, potential. Interesting. She made another notation. Elements with consciousness would naturally evaluate potential threats, allies, and compatible energies. Perhaps that's how they originally chose their vessels. Before Naruto could respond, a sudden pressure built in his chest, not painful but urgent. The fire chakra flared dramatically, sensors beeping in response. Something's happening, he said, instinctively placing a hand over his heart. The element is reacting to something distant but approaching. Tsunade checked the monitoring equipment. Your elemental chakra just spiked by 43%. Similar to your reaction when the courier arrived. But stronger. She moved to the window, scanning the horizon. Can the element sense what's triggered this response? Naruto closed his eyes, communing with the fire consciousness. Water approaches, it confirmed. Powerful, ancient, seeking balance. Water element, he relayed. Getting closer. The fire thinks it's Mei, not the hunter. As if summoned by his words, an Anbu operative appeared at the window. Lady Tsunade, Lord Hokage requests your immediate presence. Our eastern perimeter has detected an incoming chakra signature consistent with advanced water manipulation. Non-aggressive posture, traveling alone. Mei, Tsunade confirmed, already removing the monitoring equipment from Naruto. Sooner than expected, she must have traveled without rest. Or used water transportation techniques, Naruto suggested, pulling his shirt back on. If she's fully awakened her element, she could theoretically move through existing water sources. The Anbu nodded confirmation. Perimeter sensors indicate she materialized from the eastern river rather than crossing the boundary conventionally. Elemental manifestation consistent with full awakening, Tsunade murmured. Alert Kuretsuchi and prepare the secure reception area we discussed. No standard protocols. Water vessel requires specialized containment considerations. As the Anbu vanished to execute these orders, Tsunade turned to Naruto. Your element will react strongly to her presence. Are you prepared for that? As much as I can be, he replied, feeling the fire shifting restlessly within him. The element doesn't seem hostile, just intensely aware. Remember your training with Kuretsuchi. Controlled response, no matter what provocations arise. Her expression softened momentarily from professional to personal concern. This is uncharted territory for all of us. I'll be careful, he promised, unconsciously reaching for her hand before catching himself mid-gesture. Fire flared briefly at the aborted contact, visible even through his clothing. Tsunade noticed but didn't comment, instead gathering her notes. Let's go meet our water vessel. The secure reception area was actually an underground chamber beneath the Hokage Tower, originally designed for containing and examining suspicious foreign chakra sources. Its walls were inscribed with dampening eels that reduced environmental impact from powerful jutsu, an ideal location for the meeting of two potentially volatile elemental vessels. Kakashi and Kuretsuchi were already present when Tsunade and Naruto arrived, along with a small contingent of Anbu guards stationed discreetly around the perimeter. A circular pool of water dominated the center of the chamber, normally used for detecting poison or environmental contamination, now serving as an entry point for their expected guest. Perimeter teams report she's crossed into the village waterway system, Kakashi informed them. Moving deliberately toward this location. No signs of pursuit or additional water manipulation detected. Defensive positions only, Tsunade instructed the Anbu. This is a diplomatic reception unless proven otherwise. The water in the central pool began to ripple, its surface shimmering with unusual luminescence. The temperature in the chamber dropped noticeably as the liquid rose in a spiraling column. Defying gravity and natural water behavior. The column maintained its shape for several seconds before flowing outward to form a humanoid silhouette that gradually solidified into the unmistakable figure of Mei Terumi. At 35, the former Mizukage remained strikingly beautiful, her auburn hair cascading past her shoulders, partially covering the right side of her face. Her traditional blue dress was noticeably darker in places, as if parts of her body remained in semi-liquid state. Most striking were her eyes, once green, now an iridescent blue that seemed to flow like water caught in light. Quite an entrance, Kakashi commented mildly, breaking the tension. Though I believe the main gate would have sufficed. Mei's lips curved into a smile that didn't quite reach those flowing eyes. When one is pursued by hunters who control water, traditional routes become rather predictable, Lord Hokage. Her gaze shifted to Naruto, widening slightly. So it's true. You're the vessel of fire. Naruto felt the element within him surge in recognition, heat radiating from his core in response to her presence. And you're the vessel of water. Among other things, she inclined her head respectfully to Tsunade and Kuretsuchi. Lady Tsunade, your reputation in medical ninjutsu gives me hope. And a stone kunoichi with earth manifestation, how fortuitous. 3 elements gathered already. You seem well informed about our situation, Tsunade observed, neither hostile nor entirely trusting. Necessity has made me so. Mei reached into her flowing sleeve, producing a sealed scroll. That seemed to repel the surrounding moisture. This contains what little the mist archives preserved about elemental awakenings. Knowledge your courier was meant to prepare you for. How is Takuma? She asked, genuine concern evident. My protective water barrier should have shielded him from the worst of the hunter's attack. Stable but critical, Tsunade replied. Your barrier likely saved his life. Though his chakra network sustained significant damage. Mei closed her eyes briefly in evident relief. Good. He volunteered despite the risks. A brave young man. Perhaps you could explain those risks more fully. Kakashi suggested, gesturing toward a conference table set against one wall. Starting with why the former Mizukage has fled her own village. They moved to the table, Naruto acutely aware of the fire element's intense focus on Mei. Each time she moved, small ripples appeared across her skin, as if her physical form was only partially solidified, a phenomenon mirrored by occasional flickers of flame visible beneath his own skin. My awakening began 6 weeks ago, Mei explained once they were seated. Subtle at first. Enhanced water jutsu, unusual sensitivity to moisture, dreams of ancient oceans. I kept it private, researching in our archives while maintaining my advisory duties to the 7th Mizukage. Chojuro knows nothing of this. Kakashi asked. He knows now, but didn't then. I wanted to understand what was happening before potentially causing political complications. Her expression darkened. 3 weeks ago, the first attack came, a woman who manipulated water without hand signs or standard jutsu. She killed 2 of my guards before I could drive her away. The water hunter, Naruto surmised. Mei nodded. She called herself Mizuchi of the Eternal Current, and claimed to serve something called elemental equilibrium. She spoke of freeing my water element by extracting it, a process she demonstrated would be fatal. Just like Kagami, Kuretsuchi noted. Same organizational structure, same extraction objective. After the attack, I had no choice but to inform Chojuro, Mei continued. He was supportive personally, but politically. She sighed. The mist's bloody history makes them particularly wary of unusual Kekkei Genkai or chakra manifestations. The council demanded I submit to protective containment, while they assessed the situation. House arrest, Tsunade translated flatly. With extensive testing planned, Mei confirmed. When I discovered those tests would include chakra extraction experiments, I made my decision. The water element itself showed me how to transform my body to escape. She opened the scroll she'd brought, revealing ancient text and diagrams similar to those Tsunade had found in Konoha's archives. This describes the 5 primal elements as they existed before the age of shinobi, conscious, powerful forces that maintained natural balance. When humans began manipulating chakra through ninjutsu, these pure elements were eventually sealed to prevent catastrophic natural disasters. Sealed into what? Naruto asked, leaning forward with interest. Originally, specialized containers created by early sealing masters. Mei replied. But over generations, they began manifesting in humans with special chakra compatibility, primarily those with Uzumaki lineage, though other bloodlines occasionally produced compatible vessels. That explains your courier's message about the truth of the 5, Tsunade mused. But what does elemental equilibrium want with these awakened elements? Mei's expression grew grave. According to my research and what Mizuchi revealed during our confrontation, they believe the elements should exist in perfect balance, 2 parts of a whole. The Kansi, Aus element and a human wielder who serves as its voice and hands in the physical world. But that's essentially what's happening with us, Naruto pointed out. No, Mei shook her head. What we're experiencing is partnership, symbiotic coexistence where both vessel and element retain autonomy. What they want is dominance, the human completely subservient to the element's will, or the element completely controlled by the human. Like a perversion of the Jinchuriki concept, Tsunade realized. Either the human controls the power entirely, or the power controls the human entirely. Precisely. And to achieve either state, they need to extract the elemental consciousness from its current vessel and either contain it artificially or implant it into a prepared host. Mei's eyes took on a haunted quality. I witnessed Mizuchi attempt this on another water-sensitive shinobi. The extraction killed him instantly, but she captured his water affinity in a specialized containment orb. The I.M. Plications settled heavily over the group. Kakashi was first to break the silence. So these elemental hunters are each aligned with a specific element, seeking to capture that element's purest form for their organization's purposes. He glanced at Naruto. And if you potentially house all 5 elements, I'm either their greatest threat or most valuable target, Naruto finished grimly. More immediately concerning, Tsunade interjected, is whether this Mizuchi followed you to Konoha. Mei's expression confirmed their fears before she spoke. I created false water trails in multiple directions. But she's remarkably skilled at tracking elemental signatures. I'd estimate 3 days before she locates me here. That gives us time to prepare, Kakashi noted. We've already increased water-specific security measures after your courier arrived. And my earth manipulation provides a natural counter to water techniques, Kuritsuchi added. Between that and Naruto's fire, we have elemental advantages. Don't underestimate her, Mei warned. Pure water manipulation extends far beyond standard water jutsu. She can control moisture in the air, in plants, even in human bodies to some extent. And she's utterly ruthless. Quote, a sudden tremor ran through the chamber, dust drifting from the ceiling as the floor vibrated beneath them. Moments later, an alarm sounded, 3 short bursts. Followed by a long tone, the signal for natural disaster protocol. That's not possible, Mei whispered, her water element visibly agitating beneath her skin. She couldn't have found me so quickly. Another, stronger tremor shook the room as an Anbu operative appeared beside Kakashi. Lord Hokage, the eastern river has overflowed its banks without warning. Water levels rising at an unprecedented rate throughout the village. Initial reports indicate deliberate chakra manipulation rather than natural flooding. Naruto stood, fire chakra flaring visibly around his form. She's not tracking M.A. She's forcing her to reveal herself by threatening the entire village. Evacuate civilians to high ground, Kakashi ordered. Deploy water and earth-style users to create containment barriers. Say, ND word to the sensor division to locate the chakra source. That won't be necessary, Mei said, already moving toward the central pool. Her body had begun transitioning to a semi-liquid state, blue-tinted water replacing solid flesh. I can sense her chakra signature in the water itself. She's at the primary reservoir, contaminating the entire water supply with her consciousness. You can't confront her alone, Tsunade protested. That's exactly what she wants. I won't be alone. Mei's flowing eyes fixed on Naruto. Fire and water, working in concert, can generate enough steam pressure to neutralize her influence. But we must act quickly, before she establishes complete control over the village's water system. Naruto looked to Tsunade, whose expression reflected the impossible OICE before them: protect Naruto as the potential vessel of 5, or use his awakened power to save the village. Go, she decided finally. But Kuretsuchi and I are coming as support. Earth can contain water, and I need to monitor your elemental stability during interaction. I'll coordinate the village-wide response, Kakashi said, and have reinforcements standing by. Don't engage longer than absolutely necessary. Naruto nodded, then turned to Mei with determined focus. Lead the way. They moved through Konoha with urgent purpose, Mei flowing partially through the rising water while Naruto, Tsunade, and Kuretsuchi took to the rooftops. The situation deteriorated visibly with each passing minute, water levels rising in streets, buildings beginning to flood, civilians being evacuated to higher ground by organized shinobi teams. The reservoir is beyond the northern training grounds, Tsunade called over the increasing roar of rushing water. It supplies the entire village through underground aqueducts. She's using those same aqueducts to distribute her chakra, Mei confirmed, her voice carrying strangely through her semi-liquid form, contaminating every water source simultaneously. As they cleared the village proper and entered the forested area surrounding the reservoir, the environmental disruption became even more apparent. Trees stood in 2 feet of rising water. Small animals fled toward higher ground, and the air itself felt heavy with moisture. She's converting groundwater to surface water, Mei explained, reforming into mostly solid form beside them. A technique that should be impossible without massive chakra expenditure. Unless she's drawing power directly from the pure water element, Tsunade theorized. Just as Kagami demonstrated abnormal control over fire. They broke through the tree line, the reservoir spreading before them, a massive lake contained by earthen dams and concrete barriers, now overflowing in all directions. At its center stood a slender figure on a raised platform of swirling water. Even from a distance, her unnatural stillness was evident, arms extended as if conducting an invisible orchestra of liquid. Mizuchi, Mei confirmed grimly, and fully channeling the corrupted water element. The woman turned as they approached, revealing pale features framed by white-blue hair that moved like underwater plants despite the absence of wind. Her eyes were the most disturbing feature, entirely blue-white without pupil or iris, as if filled with flowing water. The vessel comes to me, Mizuchi's voice rippled across the water's surface, creating concentric circles with each word, and brings the fire vessel as well. How? Cooperative. Release your control of the reservoir, Naruto called, stepping forward. Our ward with flames beginning to manifest around his hands. Your quarrel is with us, not the village. Mizuchi's laugh sent water droplets spraying upward like a fountain. My purpose extends beyond petty quarrels, vessel of fire. I am restoration, returning water to its pure, ungoverned state. Her pupilless gaze fixed on Mei. You disappoint me, Terumi. Your element deserves better than imprisonment in human flesh. The water chose me, Mei responded, her own form becoming increasingly liquid as she prepared for confrontation. Just as fire chose Naruto. We aren't imprisoning the elements, we're partnering with them. Partnership. Mizuchi scoffed. Elements don't seek partnership. They seek freedom, expression, dominance. She raised her arms higher, the entire reservoir responding by rising in a massive wall behind her. Allow me to demonstrate true elemental expression. The water wall collapsed forward with devastating force. Kuretsuchi immediately slammed her palms into the saturated ground, channeling pure earth chakra to raise a massive barrier. Earth and water collided with thunderous impact, the barrier holding briefly before developing fissures under the relentless pressure. I can't maintain this alone. Kuretsuchi gritted through clenched teeth. Water is eroding the earthen bonds too quickly. Steam is the answer. The fire element whispered in Naruto's consciousness. Not opposition but transformation. Understanding instantly, Naruto placed his hands against Kuretsuchi's earth wall. Instead of creating flames, he channeled pure heat, not to burn but to transform. As the water penetrated the earthen barrier, it met this concentrated heat, instantly converting to steam that shot upward rather than forward. Mei grasped the strategy immediately, adding her own water manipulation to direct the transformation. Brilliant, she approved, using phase change rather than direct opposition. The coordinated defense worked. Water continued pressing against earth. Fire converted it to steam, and Mei's control directed that steam harmlessly upward. Tsunade observed with clinical precision, monitoring all three elemental users for signs of strain or instability. Clever, Mizuchi acknowledged, changing tactics. The attacking water wall receded, instead spreading outward to encircle them completely. But ultimately futile. You cannot convert L water to steam. The energy requirement would burn out your vessel in minutes. She's right, Tsunade warned, noting Naruto's elevated vital signs. The fire element is consuming your natural energy reserves too quickly. Then we change approach, Mei decided, stepping forward. Her body transformed further, becoming almost entirely liquid while maintaining humanoid shape. Water to water, I challenge your claim to the pure element. Quote, you challenge me. Mizuchi's expression darkened, the encircling water responding by churning violently. A partial vessel against one who has dedicated her life to water's freedom. A natural vessel against a corrupted wielder, Mei corrected, her liquid form expanding to merge with the floodwaters around them. Let the element itself decide. What foe? Load defied standard combat parameters. Both women seemed to dissolve entirely, their consciousnesses extending throughout the surrounding water. The reservoir and floodwaters became their battlefield, churning and shifting as two wills competed for dominance. Whirlpools formed and collapsed, waves rose and fell, sections froze and thawed in rapid succession. They're fighting for control of the element itself, Kuretsuchi observed, maintaining her earth barrier around the remaining three, each trying to prove herself the more worthy vessel. Mei's at a disadvantage, Tsunade noted with professional concern. Her awakening is recent and incomplete. Mizuchi appears to have been channeling corrupted water techniques for years. The bottle's tide visibly turned against Mei. Mizuchi's influence spread throughout more of the water, pushing Mei's consciousness back toward her companions. The corrupted wielder's laughter rippled across the entire reservoir. Your element recognizes superior devotion. Mizuchi's voice emerged from every droplet simultaneously. I've given everything to water's primacy. You merely accepted its gift when convenient. Mei's consciousness reconstituted partially beside Naruto. Her form unstable and fluctuating between solid and liquid states. She's too strong alone, she gasped, evident strain in her voice. The element is confused, responding to both of us but increasingly to her dominant will. Balance requires opposition, the fire element urged within Naruto. Not just water against water, but water with fire. Let me help, Naruto said, stepping forward with determined resolve. Fire and water together. That's exactly what she wants, Tsunade cautioned. To draw you into direct confrontation where both elements are vulnerable to extraction. Not confrontation, Naruto corrected, understanding flowing through him with sudden clarity. Harmonization. Without further explanation, he extended his hand to Mei's semi-liquid form. Fire chakra flowed from his core down his arm, visible as golden red energy seeking connection rather than dominance. After a moment's hesitation, Mei extended her liquid hand to meet his. Reaction was immediate and spectacular. Where fire met water, neither extinguished nor evaporated the other. Instead, a perfect equilibrium formed, steam that neither escaped nor dissipated but created a swirling boundary between opposed forces. This boundary expanded outward from their connected hands, a visible manifestation of harmonized elements. What is this? Mizuchi's voice held the first notes of uncertainty. This isn't natural elemental behavior. It's exactly natural, Naruto replied, the fire element speaking partially through him. Elements exist in balance, not isolation. Fire warms water, water tempers fire. Opposition creates harmony, not destruction. The steam boundary continued expanding, reaching the water under Mizuchi's control. Where it touched, her influence visibly weakened, the corrupted water purifying through contact with the harmonized energy. No, she screamed, attempting to withdraw her consciousness from the affected water. You're contaminating the purity. We're restoring the balance, Mei corrected, her form stabilizing as the water element responded more strongly to her call. Pure elements don't seek dominance, they seek equilibrium. Together, Naruto and Mei pushed their harmonized chakra throughout the reservoir. Steam and water and fire working in concert rather than competition. Mizuchi fought desperately to maintain control, each passing second saw more water returning to natural patterns under Mei's guidance. Your elemental equilibrium misunderstands the very concept of balance, Naruto called to the increasingly desperate hunter. True equilibrium isn't one element dominating, or even elements existing separately but equally. It's the harmonious interaction between opposing forces. With a final surge of combined chakra, Mei regained control of the reservoir. Water levels began receding naturally, the flooding subsiding as the liquid returned to its proper channels. Mizuchi's form materialized on the reservoir's shore, her white-blue hair now dull and her water-filled eyes showing hints of normal human irises beneath the elemental influence. "This isn't over," she snarled, backing toward the tree line. Kuretsuchi raised an earth barrier to prevent escape in that direction. "The other hunters will come. Air, earth, lightning, each stronger than the last. And you cannot maintain harmonization indefinitely without." Her warning cut short as she suddenly clutched her chest, water leaking from her eyes and mouth like tears and saliva but in unnatural quantities. "No. Not yet. I've served faithfully." Horror dawned on her face as her body began liquefying involuntarily, not the controlled transformation Mei demonstrated, but a desperate, chaotic dissolution. "The element abandons me, after everything I've sacrificed." "You never understood sacrifice," Mei said sadly, watching the inevitable process. "You sought to control, not serve. To dominate, not partner. Tell Raiko." Mizuchi gasped as her form continued melting. "The vessels are stronger than we believed. The harmonization is." Before she could finish, her physical form collapsed entirely, leaving only a puddle of airy water that quickly soaked into the ground. Within it, a small blue-white orb glowed briefly before cracking and dissolving into vapor. "The corrupted fragment of the water element," Mei explained softly. "Without a vessel or containment object, it returns to the natural cycle." Tsunade approached cautiously, medical senses extended to confirm what appeared obvious. "She's gone." The element rejected her completely. "A fate that awaits all who attempt to dominate rather than harmonize with the primal elements," Mei said, her form returning fully to human solidity, though her eyes retained their flowing quality. Naruto felt the fire within him settling into a satisfied simmer. The exertion had been substantial, but unlike standard chakra depletion, the elemental energy seemed self-replenishing once harmony had been established. "The reservoir?" he asked, looking toward the now calm waters. "Returning to normal," Mei confirmed. "Though I'll need to remain connected with it briefly to purify the corrupted influence completely." She mentioned other hunters, Kuretsuchi noted, joining them at the shoreline. "Including one aligned with Earth. My element. Raiko." Naruto remembered. "Lightning hunter, presumably." "They'll come," Mei acknowledged. "Especially now that we've demonstrated successful harmonization between vessels. That represents their greatest fear, elements working together rather than maintaining separated purity." "Then we prepare," Tsunade decided. "Beginning with complete documentation of what just happened here. This harmonization technique could be our most effective defense." The fire element stirred within Naruto, conveying not words but impressions, satisfaction at successful partnership, anticipation of further awakening, and something less defined regarding Tsunade's continued proximity. The combination left him momentarily distracted until Mei's knowing gaze brought him back to the present. "Your fire has opinions," she observed with subtle amusement. "Mine is similarly expressive." "That's putting it mildly," he agreed, grateful for her understanding. "Does it get easier to distinguish your thoughts from its impressions?" "With practice and meditation," she confirmed. "Though complete separation is neither possible nor desirable. We are partners now, our perspectives naturally influencing each other." Tsunade watched this exchange with clinical interest. "We should establish a formal training program, combining Kuretsuchi's experience with Earth, Mei's water techniques, and Naruto's developing fire control. CTU read practice of this harmonization could be critical." "Agreed," Kuretsuchi nodded. "But we should also prepare for the next hunter's arrival. If they're targeting vessels specifically, having of us in one location makes Konoha an obvious target. Which we can use to our advantage," Naruto suggested. "Controlled confrontation on our terms rather than theirs." "First, recovery and documentation," Tsunade insisted. noting the fatigue evident in all three elemental users despite their element's apparent self-replenishment. Then strategy. As they made their way back toward the village, Naruto found himself walking beside Mei, whose grace remained undiminished despite the intense battle. You adapted to your element remarkably quickly, she observed. Fire suits your nature, and water yours, he replied. Though I'm still figuring out the whole consciousness sharing aspect. It gets more interesting when the element starts having opinions about your personal life, Mei said with a cryptic smile. When Naruto looked confused, she elaborated. My water element has decided views on suitable partners, for instance. Elements seek balance in all aspects of existence, including relationships. Oh, Naruto responded, feeling the fire stir with interest at this topic. Mine has been noticing things too. About a certain medical ninja, perhaps. Mei suggested innocently, glancing toward Tsunade walking ahead with Kuretsuchi. Fire elements typically appreciate strength, passion, and nurturing capabilities. Naruto felt warmth rising to his cheeks that had nothing to do with elemental manipulation. It's complicated. It always is, Mei agreed sympathetically. But elements exist on a different timescale than humans. Age, position, history, these mean TTLE to forces that have existed since the world's formation. Before Naruto could respond to this unexpectedly personal turn, Tsunade called back to them. We need to debrief with Kakashi immediately. Reports are coming in about water damage throughout the village, and the council will want explanations about elemental manifestations. Duty calls, Mei noted with a slight smile. But consider what I said. Elements seek natural harmonization in all things, including the vessels who carry them. Night had fallen by the time the immediate crisis was fully contained. Extensive debriefings with Kakashi and the council, damage assessments throughout the village, and medical examinations for all three elemental users had consumed the remaining daylight hours. The reservoir was secured, water systems restored to normal function, and temporary accommodations arranged for citizens whose homes had sustained flooding damage. Naruto stood on the Hokage monument, overlooking the village as repair efforts continued below. Lanterns dotted the streets like earthbound stars, shinobi and civilians working together to restore normalcy. The fire element within him had settled into a comfortable warmth, seemingly satisfied with the day's events despite the exertion. He sensed Tsunade's approach before seeing her, the fire responding with now familiar awareness to her chakra signature. She carried 2 cups of steaming tea, offering one as she joined him at the overlook. You should be resting, she chided gently, though without real reproach. Fire doesn't rest, he replied with a tired smile. Just burns at different intensities. Your element's influence on your verbal patterns is becoming noticeable, she observed, sipping her tea. Metaphorical language, philosophical observations, not your typical communication style. Is that a polite way of saying I usually talk too simply? She laughed softly. Not at all, just noting the symbiotic influence. Your determination and directness influence the element, while its ancient perspective influences your expression. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the village below. The tea warmed Naruto's hands, though his internal temperature made external heat largely unnecessary. Mei and Kuretsuchi are settling in for an extended stay, Tsunade finally said. The council has granted them special diplomatic status, while we research elemental manifestations. Good. We'll need them both if the other hunters appear. About that, Tsunade turned to face him directly. The harmonization technique you and Mei demonstrated represents a significant breakthrough. I'd like to begin formal testing tomorrow, carefully controlled conditions, full monitoring. Looking for scientific explanations for mystical phenomena. He teased gently. Someone has to document these events properly, she defended with mock indignation. Future vessels will need guidance beyond. Listen to the voice in your chakra. The fire stirred with amused appreciation at her pragmatism. She bridges worlds, spiritual and physical, ancient and modern. Rare quality. The element approves of your methodical approach, Naruto translated, immediately wondering if sharing that observation was wise. Tsunade's expression reflected surprise followed by professional interest. Your element has opinions about me specifically. About everyone, he hedged again, echoing his earlier evasion. It's very observant and communicative, apparently. She studied him with the penetrating gaze that had intimidated councils and criminals alike throughout her career. What exactly does it observe? Naruto hesitated, caught between honesty and discretion. The fire element, however, had its own ideas, manifesting as a gentle glow that illuminated his features in the darkness. Truth as fire's nature, it prompted. Clear, revealing, transformative. It sees you clearly, he finally admitted. Your strength, your dedication, your carefully controlled passion. He faltered, then continued with quiet honesty, it thinks we're compatible energies. The admission hung between them, neither fully personal nor entirely professional. Tsunade's expression remained unreadable in the fire-lit darkness, though something flickered in her amber eyes that the element responded to with heightened warmth. Elemental perspectives are fascinating, she finally said, her tone neutral but not dismissive. They perceive connections and compatibilities beyond our conventional understanding. May mentioned something similar, Naruto ventured. About elements existing on different timescales, seeing beyond human constructs like age or position. Did she now? Tsunade raised an eyebrow, a hint of amusement touching her lips. Matchmaking via elemental consciousness is certainly a novel approach. The tension eased with her light response, though the underlying awareness remained. Naruto felt the fire element settle into a patient simmer, neither pushing nor retreating, simply acknowledging possibilities not yet realized. Tomorrow's going to be demanding, Tsunade said, finishing her tea. Full elemental harmonization testing, plus preliminary work on water manifestation tracking. You should get actual rest, not just fire meditation. I will, he promised. Though the element suggests that rest is relative when one carries primordial energy. Tell your primordial energy that human vessels require sleep regardless of cosmic perspective, she retorted with fond exasperation. Doctor's orders. As she turned to leave, her hand briefly touched his arm, a casual gesture that nonetheless sent the fire surging through his network with unmistakable recognition. Whether she noticed the reaction or simply chose not to comment remained unclear. Tsunade, he called softly as she reached the path leading down. She paused, looking back with questioning eyes. Thank you for everything you're doing to help us understand this. Her expression softened into something rarely witnessed, unguarded affection without professional distance. That's what partners do, Naruto. Help each other navigate uncharted waters, or fires, as the case may be. Quote. With that, she descended the path, leaving Naruto with the distinct impression that her choice of words had been entirely deliberate. The fire element's satisfied pulse confirmed his suspicion. Patience, it counseled. Fire endures, transforms slowly, reveals in time. Below, the village continued its recovery, water receding, damage being repaired. Life adapting to changed circumstances with resilient determination. Just as the vessels were adapting to their elemental awakenings, finding balance between ancient power and human existence. Naruto remained on the monument until moonrise, communing with the fire that had become part of him, preparing for whatever challenges the coming hunters would bring, and contemplating connections both elemental and personal that continued evolving with each passing day. Chapter 2 and Chapter 3, Earthen Foundations. Dawn had not yet broken over Konoha when Naruto began his daily meditation. Seated cross-legged on the wooden floor of his apartment, bare-chested in the pre-morning chill, he focused on the dueling energies within his chakra network. Fire and water, fundamentally opposed yet now coexisting in fragile harmony within him. The fire element pulsed with steady consistency, its feminine presence now familiar after 2 weeks of communion. The water consciousness remained more elusive, not fully awakened but distinctly present since his harmonization with Mei during their battle against Mizuchi. It manifested as cool whispers at the edges of his awareness, responding when deliberately called upon but not yet communicating with the clarity of its fiery counterpart. Balance requires understanding both, the fire element counseled. Not favoring my voice simply because it speaks more clearly. Naruto exhaled slowly, extending his right hand palm up. A small flame appeared, dancing above his skin without burning. With his left hand similarly extended, he summoned a perfect sphere of water that hovered and rotated slowly. Maintaining both simultaneously had been impossible 3 days ago, the opposing elements would destabilize, either evaporating the water or extinguishing the flame. Now, through patient practice, he held them in perfect equilibrium, neither gaining advantage, neither diminishing, complementary rather than contradictory. Progress, the fire approved. The water came no words but a sensation of cool agreement, like a refreshing breeze across consciousness. A gentle knock interrupted his concentration. Both elemental manifestations wavered momenta. Riley before stabilizing again, another improvement. Early in his training, any distraction would collapse the delicate balance instantly. Come in, he called, maintaining the dual manifestation as a personal challenge. Tsunade entered, already dressed for the day in her customary gray kimono and green haori. She carried a medical pack and clipboard, their morning examination ritual now established routine. Her eyebrows rose appreciatively at the balanced elements hovering above his palms. Impressive control, she noted, setting down her equipment. Especially pre-caffeine. The elements don't recognize human need for stimulants, Naruto replied with a small smile, carefully dispersing both manifestations. They exist in perpetual awareness. Well, some of us mere mortals require coffee. She produced a thermos from her bag, pouring steaming liquid into 2 cups. I anticipated your early start. Naruto accepted the offering gratefully. The past weeks had established unexpected patterns between them, these early morning examinations evolving from clinical necessity to comfortable ritual. Tsunade still maintained professional focus during the actual medical procedures, but the moments surrounding them had softened into something more personal. Sleep patterns, she asked, sipping her coffee while organizing her monitoring equipment. 3 hours. The same as yesterday. She frowned slightly. That's insufficient for standard human functioning, regardless of Jinchuriki or elemental enhancement. It doesn't feel insufficient, he explained, having had this conversation several times already. The elements provide energy differently than standard rest. 3 hours of sleep plus 2 hours of elemental meditation leaves me more refreshed than 8 hours of sleep ever did. She made a notation on her clipboard, unconvinced but unwilling to argue the point again. Shirt off. Let's check pathway integration. Naruto complied, setting aside his coffee. Tease. Tsunade's hands glowed with diagnostic chakra as she placed them on his chest, the familiar warmth of medical energy flowing through his network. The fire element stirred appreciatively at her touch. The nascent water consciousness receded slightly, still wary of external energies. Fire pathways show complete integration, she observed, focused entirely on her examination. Water continues establishing secondary networks without disrupting existing pathways, remarkable adaptation. Her hands moved methodically across his torso, tracing the complex chakra system. Any discomfort where they intersect? Not pain exactly, more like awareness of different temperatures. Especially here. He indicated a spot near his solar plexus where fire and water pathways crossed most prominently. Tsunade concentrated on that area, her brow furrowing slightly. There's unusually dense chakra accumulation at this junction. Not harmful, but definitely intensifying. She looked up, meeting his gaze with clinical curiosity. What does it feel like subjectively? Naruto considered how to describe the sensation. Like potential energy, as if something's gathering strength for emergence or transformation. The earth element, perhaps, she suggested. According to the scrolls May provided, elemental awakenings often follow natural interaction patterns. Fire and water combining can create conditions for earth to emerge. Through steam and pressure, forming solid from liquid. Naruto nodded, the concept feeling intuitively correct to his elemental awareness. Tsunade's hands continued their diagnostic path, her touch professional yet somehow more attentive than strictly necessary. Naruto had become acutely aware of these subtle shifts, moments when scientific examination seemed to linger into personal connection before retreating behind professional boundaries again. The fire element, never one for subtlety, pulsed with approval at each such moment. She struggles between roles, it observed. Healer, leader, woman, all authentic, all constrained by artificial limitations. Naruto had grown accustomed to ignoring such commentary, though the frequency of the elements observations regarding Tsunade specifically had increased notably over the past weeks. Any progress with direct water communication? Tsunade asked, moving to examine his back. Impressions rather than words, he explained. Like understanding someone's meaning without hearing specific language. It's more conceptual than fire's communication. Consistent with Mei's experience, Tsunade noted. Water consciousness communicates through sensation and imagery rather than distinct thought language. She completed the examination, stepping back to record her observations. Naruto pulled his shirt back on, watching her methodical documentation with newfound appreciation. These daily sessions had revealed a side of Tsunade he'd never fully recognized before, her meticulous attention to detail, passionate intellectual curiosity, and unrelenting pursuit of understanding. The council meeting is at 9, she reminded him, finishing her notes. Kuretsuchi will present the stone villages of official position on elemental manifestations, and Mei will address water security protocols. And my role? He asked, already suspecting the answer. Observation only, she confirmed with a pointed look. We agreed to minimize public knowledge of your multiple elemental potential. As far as the council is concerned, you're manifesting enhanced fire affinity, nothing more. Naruto nodded, understanding the strategy while chafing slightly at the constraint. After demonstrating his capabilities against Mizuchi, returning to the background felt counterintuitive. Tsunade seemed to sense his frustration. This isn't about doubting your abilities, she clarified, her tone softening. It's about keeping elemental equilibrium's focus divided rather than united against you specifically. I know, he acknowledged. Strategic misdirection doesn't make it any less frustrating. Consider it preparation for future leadership, she suggested, surprising him. Sometimes the most powerful move a leader can make is to appear less powerful than they truly are. The comment lingered between them as she gathered her equipment. Naruto had never explicitly expressed ambitions toward becoming Hokage since the war, the boyish declarations of his youth replaced by more complex understanding of what leadership truly entailed. That Tsunade still saw that potential in him, despite everything that had changed, stirred something beyond elemental energy. Council politics aside, she continued, we have harmonization training with Mei and Kuretsuchi this afternoon. 4 hours in the secure facility beneath Anbu headquarters. 4 hours in a windowless room, Naruto sighed dramatically. The fire element is already protesting. Tell your primordial energy source that safety protocols exist for a reason. Tsunade retorted with a hint of amusement. After what happened at the reservoir, we need controlled conditions for testing elemental interactions. She moved toward the door, pausing briefly. Oh. And Kakashi mentioned something about updating your apartment's protective seals. Apparently, having 2 elemental vessels as regular visitors warrants enhanced security measures. 3. Naruto corrected without thinking. You're here every morning. Something flickered in her amber eyes, surprise followed by an emotion too complex to name. I'm not an elemental vessel, Naruto. No, he agreed, the fire warming his response with conviction beyond his conscious intent. But you're equally important to protect. The moment stretched between them, neither entirely professional nor explicitly personal. Finally, Tsunade nodded once, acceptance without acknowledgement, and departed with a reminder to arrive at the council chambers by 8:30. After she left, Naruto returned to his meditation position, focusing on the curious sensation in his solar plexus where fire and water energies converged most intensely. The nascent potential gathering there didn't feel threatening. But its growing pressure suggested inevitability, like soil compressing before a seedling emerges. Earth comes, the fire confirmed his intuition. Not yet, but soon. When need and opportunity align. The council chambers hummed with tense conversation when Naruto arrived. Representatives from each major village department occupied tiered seating around the circular room, with Kakashi presiding from the Hokage's position. Tsunade, Mei, and Kuretsuchi sat at a specialized presentation table, surrounded by scrolls and documentation. Naruto took his assigned seat in the observer section, nodding to Shikamaru who occupied the strategic advisory position beside Kakashi. The Nara genius returned the acknowledgement with a penetrating gaze that suggested he understood far more about the situation than official briefings had revealed. Now that we're all present, Kakashi began, his normally casual demeanor replaced by formal authority, we'll continue our assessment of elemental knife stations and appropriate village response protocols. He gestured to Kuretsuchi. The representative from the stone village will present their official position and historical context. Kuretsuchi rose with dignified confidence. Her traditional stone uniform had been supplemented with formal robes bearing her family crest, emphasizing her status as both diplomatic envoy and potential future Tsuchikage. Over the past weeks, her earth manifestation had stabilized into a subtle enhancement rather than dramatic transformation, only occasionally visible as stone-like texturing across her skin during moments of intense focus. Honored Council, she began, her voice carrying clear authority. The stone village has documented elemental manifestations throughout our history, recognizing them as natural phenomena rather than kekkei genkai or forbidden techniques. She unrolled a scroll containing ancient text and illustrations. Our earliest records describe earth speakers, shinobi who see, communicated directly with the element rather than merely manipulating it through jutsu. These individuals served essential roles in stabilizing the land during periods of geological disturbance. A.M. Irma ran through the council at this historical context. Most present had assumed elemental manifestations were entirely new phenomena related to the Fourth War's chakra disruptions. While current manifestations appear more potent than historical examples, Kuretsuchi continued, the fundamental principle remains consistent. Certain individuals possess natural resonance with pure elemental chakra. This isn't a threat but an opportunity for enhanced understanding and cooperation with the natural world. She outlined the stone village's official position. Elemental vessels should be recognized as specialized resources rather than security concerns, provided proper training and support systems were established. The stone had already implemented monitoring protocols and integration programs for identified Earth affinity individuals showing manifestation potential. As Kuretsuchi concluded, Kakashi thanked her and turned to Mei. The former Mizukage will now address water security considerations. Mei rose with fluid grace, her presence commanding immediate attention. Unlike Kuretsuchi's subtle manifestation, Mei's connection to water remained visibly evident, her eyes maintaining their flowing quality, and occasional ripples appearing across her skin when she emphasized particular points. Water presents unique security challenges, she began without preamble. It exists in multiple states, flows through every living thing, and connects all parts of our environment. A corrupted water user like Mizuchi could potentially infiltrate any location containing moisture, including the human body. This stark assessment sent another ripple of concerned murmuring through the council. Mei continued undeterred. However, this same connectivity offers unprecedented defensive opportunities. As demonstrated during the reservoir incident, harmonized elemental chakra can purify contaminated water systems with remarkable efficiency. She detailed the water security protocols developed over the past weeks, specialized sensor barriers attuned to unnatural water movement, regular purification of village water sources, and training programs for existing water-style users to detect elemental abnormalities. Most importantly, she emphasized, we must recognize that elemental manifestations exist on a spectrum. What we've witnessed in Naruto, Kuretsuchi, and myself represents LL awakening and harmonization, a partnership between human vessel and elemental consciousness. The hunters we've encountered represent corrupted manifestation, domination rather than cooperation with elemental forces. From his observation position, Naruto watched the council's reactions carefully. Most appeared appropriately concerned yet receptive to these explanations. A few, however, particularly representatives from the village's conservative security division, showed signs of deepening suspicion. One such representative raised his hand. What prevents these manifestations from developing in unpredictable ways? If elements have consciousness as you claim, what guarantees their continued cooperation with human vessels? Mutual benefit, Mei answered smoothly. Elements gain foku, said expression and influence in the human realm, while vessels gain enhanced capabilities and deeper connection to natural forces. The relationship is symbiotic, not parasitic. Unless corrupted, another council member pointed out. As with these hunters you've described. Precisely, Tsunade interjected, speaking for the first time. Which is why proper medical monitoring and support systems are essential. Corruption occurs when vessels attempt to dominate rather than cooperate with elemental consciousness, a pattern we can identify and prevent through appropriate protocols. She outly, the medical monitoring program developed in cooperation with the hospital, regular chakra network assessments, psychological evaluation for integration stability, and specialized training in elemental meditation techniques. These aren't just security measures, she emphasized, but health considerations for the vessels themselves. Proper integration promotes stability and control. Attempted oppression or exploitation leads to the corruption we've witnessed in the elemental hunters. The questioning continued for another hour, ranging from practical security concerns to philosophical implications of conscious elements. Throughout, Naruto observed the subtle dynamics between the three women presenting: Kuretsuchi's grounded pragmatism, Mei's fluid adaptability, and Tsunade's integrative expertise, forming a complementary team despite their different backgrounds and perspectives. Finally, Kakashi called for the council's preliminary recommendations. After brief deliberation, they approved continued implementation of the proposed security and medical protocols, with full review scheduled in 2 weeks pending further developments. Additionally, the Hokage concluded, "We will extend formal diplomatic recognition to both Lady Mei and Lady Kuretsuchi as specialized advisors on elemental phenomena. Their continued presence in Konoha serves both our security interests and broader inter-village cooperation." With that, the formal session adjourned. As council members departed, Naruto approached the presentation table where Tsunade was gathering research materials. "That went better than expected," he observed quietly. "Initial acceptance doesn't guarantee lasting support," she cautioned. "The real test will come when another hunter appears or your earth element awakens fully." "Always the optimist," he teased gently. A hint of a smile touched her lips. "Pragmatist," she corrected, "though I'm encouraged by the council's relatively rational response. After years of dealing with their reactionary tendencies, this qualifies as positively progressive." Kuretsuchi joined them, satisfaction evident in her composed demeanor. "Your council asks better questions than ours would. In the stone, we'd still be debating whether to classify elemental vessels as weapons or liabilities." "Don't mistake temporary cooperation for philosophical evolution," Mei countered, completing their group. "Fear often masquerades as rational consideration until the next crisis arrives." Such cynicism from a diplomat, Kuretsuchi observed with raised eyebrows. "Former diplomat," Mei corrected with a sardonic smile. "Current water vessel seeking asylum." Perspective changes accordingly. Their conversation paused as Kakashi approached, accompanied by Shikamaru, whose analytical gaze swept over the four with undisguised curiosity. "Effective presentation," the Hokage commended. "Though I suspect we've only addressed the visible portion of our challenges. Like the exposed peak of an iceberg." Shikamaru agreed, attention fixing on Naruto. "The council remains unaware of certain multiplicative aspects of our situation." Naruto met his friend's perceptive gaze steadily. Of course Shikamaru had deduced the truth about his multiple elemental potential. The strategic advisor rarely missed significant patterns. "Some information requires appropriate context before sharing," Tsunade stated diplomatically. "The council will be updated when necessary." Necessary being the operative term, Shikamaru nodded, unperturbed by the deflection. "Though necessity has a way of arriving unannounced." Speaking of which, Kakashi interjected, "Our intelligence division reports unusual seismic activity along the northern border. Nothing conclusive, but patterns consistent with Earth-style techniques rather than natural geological processes." Kuretsuchi straightened, alarm flashing across her features. "The Earth Hunter. Potentially," Kakashi acknowledged. They dispatched specialized sensor teams to investigate, with orders to observe only, not engage. "We should accelerate this afternoon's harmonization training," Tsunade decided. "If another confrontation is imminent, we need better understanding of how multiple elements interact within a single vessel." The others agreed, and they quickly finalized arrangements to meet at the secure facility after a brief lunch break. As the group dispersed, Naruto found himself walking alongside Shikamaru toward the exit. "Troublesome situation you've gotten yourself into," his friend observed mildly. "Multiple elemental manifestations, ancient consciousness awakening, mysterious organization hunting you. Typical Naruto circumstances. You noticed all that from council observation?" Naruto asked, impressed despite himself. Shikamaru's expression remained impassive. "I notice patterns. Your chakra signature has transformed fundamentally. Tsunade examines you with attention beyond professional interest." Kuretsuchi and Mei orient themselves around you in group settings like planets around a gravitational center. He shrugged slightly. The conclusions draw themselves. And your analysis? Insufficient data for comprehensive assessment, Shikamaru replied with uncharacteristic caution. Though I'd advise awareness of how personal and elemental attractions might be influencing judgment, yours and theirs. Naruto stopped walking, surprised by this observation. What exactly are you implying? Nothing you haven't already considered, his friend responded evenly. Elements seek balance, but humans are complicated. When the two intersect, he trailed off, leaving the implication hanging between them. Before Naruto could press further, Shikamaru nodded toward an approaching figure. Your Earth instructor arrives. We'll continue this conversation when circumstances permit. He departed with typical unhurried efficiency, passing Kuretsuchi, who approached from the direction of the diplomatic quarters. She had changed from formal robes back to her standard uniform, practical attire better suited for the afternoon's training. Your strategic advisor sees much, she observed, having noticed their conversation. Too much sometimes, Naruto agreed. Though he rarely shares everything he observes. A valuable quality in an advisor. She fell into step beside him as they headed toward the training facility. In the stone, our strategists are encouraged to speak plainly, regardless of political sensitivities. Results over diplomacy. Shikamaru manages both somehow, Naruto reflected. Absolute honesty delivered with just enough tact to be palatable. They walked in comfortable silence for several blocks, their relationship having evolved into easy camaraderie through weeks of training together. Unlike his interactions with Tsunade or Mei, which carried layers of unspoken complexity, Kuretsuchi offered straightforward companionship, professional respect gradual. Why warming into friendship unmarked by the elemental tensions that characterized his other relationships? You've been monitoring the pressure point, she noted suddenly, gesturing toward his solar plexus. The convergence area, Naruto nodded, unsurprised by her perception. Earth manifestation enhanced sensitivity to physical states and tensions. It's intensifying. Fire and water creating conditions for Earth to emerge. As expected, she confirmed. The awakening sequence follows natural patterns. Fire sparks transformation, water provides fluidity for change, Earth establishes new foundations. Followed by air and lightning. Naruto completed the sequence, at least according to the scrolls. If you reach that stage, Kuretsuchi cautioned. Multiple elemental awakening remains theoretical. Even the ancient texts describe no vessel successfully containing more than 3 simultaneously. Encouraging, Naruto remarked dryly. She smiled slightly. You've managed the impossible before. Though I'd recommend mastering Earth before concerning yourself with subsequent awakenings. Any advice for when it happens? Kuretsuchi considered this seriously as they continued walking. Earth differs fundamentally from fire and water, she finally said. Those elements move, transform, react. Earth endures, supports, preserves. Its consciousness communicates through stability and foundation rather than action and change. So less dramatic awakening, more gradual integration. Potentially. Though need often triggers acceleration. Her expression grew more serious. Awakening occurred during a landslide threatening a civilian settlement. Latent Earth consciousness emerged fully to prevent catastrophic loss of life. Crisis as catalyst, Naruto mused. Kansi. Stent with both fire and water awakenings. They had reached the secure facility, an unassuming building near Anbu headquarters with deceptively powerful containment seals integrated into its architecture. Guards verified their identities before admitting them to the specialized training area below. Tsunade and Mei had already arrived, engaged in technical discussion beside monitoring equipment arranged around a circular chamber. The room's design incorporated elements specifically created for elemental practice, reinforced walls capable of withstanding extreme temperatures, drainage systems for water manipulation, and Earth-compatible flooring for geological techniques. Perfect timing, Tsunade greeted them. We've recalibrated the sensors based on this morning's readings. Naruto, center position please. We'll establish baseline measurements before attempting harmonization exercises. He took his position in the chamber's center, removing his jacket to allow better sensor contact. Technicians attached monitoring devices to key chakra points while Tsunade explained the session's objectives. Today we're focusing on transitional states between elements. Specifically, how fire and water interact internally to potentially facilitate Earth awakening. Like steam pressure creating stone, Kuretsuchi suggested. Precisely, Tsunade confirmed. Elemental interactions follow natural principles even within chakra networks. We'll monitor the process to better understand the mechanics and, hopefully, develop techniques to stabilize transitions. The training began with basic manifestation exercises, Naruto demonstrating individual control over fire and water separately, then simultaneous maintenance as he had practiced that morning. Mei observed closely, occasionally offering refinements to his water manipulation technique. Allow it to flow rather than forcing direction, she advised. Water responds to suggestion more readily than command. Next came harmonization practice, the technique they had discovered during the battle with Mizuchi. Naruto concentrated on bringing fire and water into perfect equilibrium, creating the steam boundary that represented balanced opposition. The monitoring equipment registered this state with fascinating data patterns that had Tsunade completely absorbed in analysis. The chakra signature during harmonization is entirely unique, she explained, showing them the readings. Neither fire nor water, but a distinct third energy created through perfect balance. The catalyst state, Mei suggested. In natural systems, transitions between elemental states create conditions for new formations. Hours passed in progressive experimentation. Naruto worked through increasingly complex exercises, directing harmonized energy through specific pathway configurations. Maintaining balance under induced stress conditions, and exploring the boundaries where stable harmonization began to break down. Throughout, the pressure at his solar plexus continued intensifying, not painful but increasingly demanding of attention. The fire and water consciousnesses seemed aware of this development, occasionally directing energy toward the convergence point as if nurturing emerging potential. Your core temperature is fluctuating in distinct patterns, Tsunade noted during a brief rest period. Cycling between extremes before stabilizing at a new median point. Consistent with preparation for elemental transition. It feels like, Naruto searched for an appropriate analogy, like soil being prepared for planting. Tilled, watered, warmed, ready but waiting for the seed. Quote, poetic, Kuretsuchi commented with mild surprise. Your earth aspect influencing expression already. We should attempt direct earth stimulation, Mei suggested. Kuretsuchi's element contacting Naruto's convergence point might provide the necessary catalyst. Tsunade considered this carefully. Controlled application only, she finally agreed. Minimal energy transfer with full monitoring. Quote, they positioned themselves accordingly, Naruto seated in the chamber's center, Kuretsuchi kneeling before him. She extended her hands, earth manifestation visible as stone-like texturing that flowed across her skin like living granite. Focus on the convergence point, she instructed calmly. Visualize foundation, stability, endurance. Earth doesn't arrive with fire's dramatic entrance or water's fluid integration. It emerges through gradual, inexorable presence. Naruto closed his eyes, concentrating on these concepts while directing fire and water energies to maintain harmonization around the convergence point. Kuretsuchi placed her palms against his solar plexus, her earth chakra cool and solid compared to fire's heat or water's fluidity. For several minutes, nothing dramatic occurred. Just subtle energy exchange, the earth consciousness in Kuretsuchi apparently examining the potential vessel before it. Then, gradually, Naruto felt somethi. New stirring at the convergence point, a sensation of weight and substance unlike either previous awakening. It's responding, he murmured, maintaining perfect stillness. Not communicating yet, but acknowledging. Tsunade monitored the readings with intense focus. Your chakra network is adapting, creating tertiary pathways without disrupting existing structures. Remarkable efficiency. The process continued with methodical patience, earth energy gradually integrating with the established fire and water systems. Unlike the dramatic awakenings before, this manifestation developed with deliberate, unhurried purpose. Exactly as Kuretsuchi had predicted. After 30 minutes of sustained connection, they ended the session. The earth consciousness had not fully awakened, but its NCE was now unmistakably established within Naruto's system, a foundation laid for eventual complete manifestation. Extraordinary progress, Tsunade concluded, reviewing the comprehensive data. 3. Distinct elemental signatures coexisting in a single network, each maintaining integrity while establishing compatible interaction patterns. The transition will complete itself when circumstances require, Kuretsuchi predicted, her expression suggesting both professional satisfaction and personal pride in the accomplishment. Earth responds to need rather than desire. As they concluded the day's training and prepared to depart, an Anbu operative appeared at the chamber entrance, the sudden arrival indicating urgent developments. Lady Tsunade, the masked shinobi addressed her directly rather than Kakashi, suggesting medical rather than administrative emergency. Your presence is requested at the hospital immediately. We've received multiple patients from the Northern Border Patrol, with symptoms similar to the Mist Courier, but affecting Earth chakra pathways rather than water. The Earth Hunter, Naruto realized immediately. Not confirmed, the Anbu clarified, but preliminary. Rai reports indicate advanced Earth manipulation beyond standard jutsu capabilities. How many injured? Tsunade demanded, already gathering her medical equipment. 5 Border Patrol members, 2 critically destabilized. Their chakra networks appear to be petrifying from within. We're coming, Tsunade decided, including all present with a glance. If this is indeed the Earth Hunter, we need full elemental assessment. The hospital emergency ward presented a grimly familiar scene, medical ninja working frantically around patients exhibiting unnatural symptoms beyond standard treatment protocols. Unlike the water hunter's victims, whose chakra pathways had frozen, these shinobi suffered progressive solidification, chakra itself crystallizing into stone-like formations within their networks. Complete pathway scan, Tsunade ordered immediately, pulling her hair back and donning medical robes provided by staff. Focus on Tenketsu junctions and core convergence points. Standard KRA stimulation is contraindicated, it accelerates crystallization. She turned to Kuretsuchi, who had paled visibly at the sight of the afflicted shinobi. I need your expertise. Have you encountered this condition before? Once. The stone kunoichi confirmed grimly. A scouting team that encountered our Earth Hunter. Only one survived, and only because we amputated the affected limb before crystallization reached central pathways. That won't be an option here, Tsunade determined after quick examination of the most critical patient. The process is already centralized, originating at heart chakra point and radiating outward. There is another approach, Kuretsuchi suggested hesitantly. But it requires direct earth element intervention, using pure earth chakra to communicate with the corrupted manifestation. Like Naruto extracting the corrupted fire from Kotetsu, Tsunade realized. Elemental recognition and neutralization. Precisely. But significantly more dangerous with earth. Kuretsuchi's expression was deadly serious. Unlike fire or water, crystallized earth doesn't disperse when neutralized, it must be carefully dissolved and removed. One mistake could shatter the pathways entirely. Tsunade considered their options with rapid assessment. Can you perform this technique? Kuretsuchi nodded, though her hesitation was evident. On one patient, yes. But not 5 simultaneously. The precision required is too great for multiple interventions. All eyes turned to Naruto, the implication clear. His partial earth manifestation might allow him to assist, despite not being fully awakened. The element is present but not fully communicative, he warned. I can't guarantee the same control I had with fire. We have no alternatives, Tsunade stated bluntly. These shinobi will die within hours as crystallization reaches vital organs. At minimum, you can provide supportive energy while Kuretsuchi leads the procedure. Decision made, they quickly established treatment protocols. Kuretsuchi would handle the most critical patient, demonstrating the technique while Naruto observed. If successful, he would attempt the procedure on the remaining patients under her guidance. May and additional medical staff would monitor vital signs and manage any water-related aspects, as proper hydration proved critical to preventing further crystallization. Ratsuchi positioned herself beside the first patient, a jonin whose skin had taken on a gray, stone-like appearance radiating from his chest. She placed one hand directly over his heart chakra point, the other at the base of his throat where crystallization advanced most rapidly. Observe carefully, she instructed Naruto, who stood opposite her. Earth communication occurs through pressure and vibration, not heat or flow. You must establish resonance with the corrupted earth before attempting extraction. Her hands began emitting subtle earth chakra, not the dramatic manifestations used in combat, but precise, controlled pulses that visibly affected the crystallized pathways. Where her energy contacted corrupted formations, the stone-like substance softened slightly, becoming more responsive to manipulation. The corrupted earth recognizes pure earth as kindred, she explained, maintaining perfect focus. First establish communication, then assert dominance through superior resonance. Finally extract while maintaining pathway integrity. Naruto watched intently, his partial earth consciousness stirring with recognition at the technique. Though not fully awakened, the element understood the procedure on some fundamental level, grasping concepts his human mind struggled to articulate. After 20 minutes of intensive treatment, Kuretsuchi successfully extracted a small, dark crystal from the Jonin's chest. Corrupted earth chakra condensed into physical form. Unlike the water hunter's corrupted element, which had dispersed into vapor, this manifestation maintained solid structure even when removed from its host. Containment vessel, she requested, her voice strained from the effort. Tsunade provided a specially prepared container lined with chakra-suppressing seals. The crystal was carefully deposited inside, its malevolent energy visibly diminished once sealed. One down, Kuretsuchi breathed, sweat beading on her forehead. His pathways will require conventional healing. But the corruption is removed. She turned to Naruto, ready to attempt the procedure. He nodded, moving to the next patient, a Chunin whose crystallization appeared less advanced but was progressing rapidly. Positioning his hands as Kuretsuchi had demonstrated, he focused on the partial earth consciousness within him. Foundation, he called to it silently. Recognition, harmony. The element responded sluggishly, its presence acknowledged but not fully engaged. Unlike fire's eager cooperation or water's flowing adaptability, earth required convincing, solid certainty before commitment. It's resisting, he murmured, frustration edging his voice. Earth doesn't respond to impatience, Kuretsuchi reminded him calmly. It values certainty over speed. Show it your foundation, your immovable purpose. Naruto adjusted his approach, focusing on qualities the earth element would recognize: determination, endurance, protection. These concepts resonated more effectively, the element's attention gradually turning toward the corrupted chakra in the patient. This one is damaged, came the first distinct earth communication, a voice that felt neither male nor female but ancient and solid as bedrock itself. Corrupted by false mastery, can you help extract the corruption? Naruto asked mentally. Not yet whole, the earth consciousness replied. But enough to guide. Follow the fault lines. Separate along natural boundaries. With this guidance, Naruto began the extraction process. Unlike Kuretsuchi's smooth, practiced technique, his approach proved more intuitive. The partial earth consciousness directing his energy to follow the fault lines between corrupted and healthy chakra. Progress came slowly but steadily. The crystallization receded gradually, corrupted earth chakra drawn toward Naruto's hands where it condensed into a formation similar to what Kuretsuchi had extracted. After 45 minutes of concentrated effort, he successfully removed the corruption. Depositing another dark crystal into a containment vessel. Different technique, same result, Tsunade observed, monitoring both patients' vital signs. Your earth element approaches problems differently than Kuretsuchi's, but achieves equivalent outcomes. Earth reflects the vessel, Kuretsuchi explained, already moving to assist with the third patient. My approach emphasizes technique and precision, traits valued in the stone village. Yours follows natural patterns and intuitive recognition, consistent with your overall chakra philosophy. They continued working through the remaining patients. Naruto growing more confident with each procedure as the earth consciousness became increasingly responsive. By the third extraction, communication flowed more readily, the element faring clearer guidance about corruption patterns and extraction methods. By the time they completed treatment of the final patient, evening had fallen. The medical team reported all 5 shinobi stabilized. Though extensive follow-up treatment would be necessary to repair damaged chakra pathways. The corrupted earth crystals remained securely contained, awaiting specialized analysis. Kuretsuchi. I looked exhausted but satisfied as they finally stepped away from the treatment area. Your earth element responded remarkably well for partial awakening, she told Naruto. Most vessels require full manifestation before attempting such precise techniques. It wasn't me, he admitted. The element itself understood what was needed, even without complete integration. A promising sign, Tsunade noted, reviewing final patient data. It suggests harmonious predisposition rather than forced compatibility. Once immediate medical concerns were addressed, attention turned to the intelligence aspects of the incident. The highest-ranking patient, a Jonin named Hideki who had been among the first treated, regained consciousness and requested to report directly to them. The attack occurred at our northern monitoring post, he explained, voice hoarse from the ordeal. No warning, no conventional approach. The earth beneath our position simply came alive. Describe the attacker, Tsunade prompted. Male, approximately 40, wearing standard hiking attire rather than shinobi gear. No visible weapons or tools. Hideki's expression darkened with remembered pain. He called himself, Wow of the Eternal Mountain and said he served something called elemental equilibrium. Consistent with previous hunter identification patterns, May observed. Each adopts an elemental title aligned with their manifestation. Did he state his purpose? Kuritsuchi asked. Hideki nodded grimly. He said he sensed Earth potential awakening in Konoha and came to liberate it from flawed vessels. When we attempted to apprehend him, he demonstrated Earth manipulation unlike anything I've encountered, not moving existing Earth, but changing its fundamental properties instantly. Transmutation rather than manipulation, Tsunade translated, consistent with pure elemental control. He specifically mentioned seeking someone with multiple elemental potential, Hideki continued, glancing at Naruto. Said such an abomination violated natural order and must be harvested. The implications settled heavily over the group. The elemental equilibrium now had confirmed knowledge of Naruto's multiple elemental potential, making their strategy of limited disclosure increasingly difficult to maintain. Did he indicate his next actions? Kuritsuchi pressed. Or mention others coming? He said the mountain comes to the vessel, if the vessel won't come to it. Hideki shook his head apologetically. I lost consciousness shortly after. When I woke, he was gone, and our team was being transported here. After gathering all available information, they left Hideki to rest and convened in Tsunade's office to assess the situation. Kakashi joined them, having been briefed on developments while they worked in the hospital. This confirms our intelligence about unusual seismic activity, the Hokage noted. Though the hunter appears to have penetrated much deeper into fire country than we anticipated. They're growing bolder, May observed. First Mizuchi attacking the village directly, now Iwao penetrating border defenses with apparent ease. And specifically targeting Naruto, Tsunade added. Concern evident beneath her professional demeanor. The strategy of obscuring his multiple elemental potential is becoming untenable. Then we adapt, Kuritsuchi suggested pragmatically. Instead of hiding his capacity, we use it as strategic advantage. Make the hunters respond to our timeline rather than theirs. You're suggesting we draw them out, Kakashi interpreted. Potentially dangerous, but offers the advantage of controlling engagement circumstances. We've defeated 2 hunters already, Naruto pointed out. Fire and water. With Earth manifesting, even partially, we're better positioned than ever to handle the Earth Hunter. Overconfidence preceded many catastrophic defeats, Tsunade cautioned. These confrontations have occurred under increasingly favorable circumstances for the hunters. They're learning, adapting their approach based on previous failures. So we accelerate our own preparation, Naruto responded, a plan forming as he spoke. The RTH element is present but not fully awakened. We create controlled conditions for complete manifestation, strengthening our position before Iwao forces confrontation. Deliberate awakening, May questioned. Is that even possible? All recorded manifestations occur in response to crisis or necessity. Not necessarily deliberate, Kuritsuchi clarified, understanding Naruto's suggestion. But strategically facilitated. Create conditions where Earth would naturally complete its emergence without artificial crisis. The deep Earth caverns, Kakashi proposed after brief consideration. The N.C. formation chambers beneath the Hokage monument. They contain the purest natural Earth chakra concentrations in fire country, historically used for Earth-style jutsu development and geological research. Perfect resonance environment. Kuritsuchi agreed immediately. My Earth consciousness would respond powerfully to such conditions. It might provide sufficient stimulus for Naruto's Earth element to complete integration. Tsunade remained skeptical. The medical risks of accelerated awakening are significant. Forcing manifestation could destabilize existing elemental balance. More significant than facing an Earth hunter with incomplete manifestation. Naruto challenged gently. Every hunter we've encountered has specialized in extracting their corresponding element. Iwao will get my Earth aspect specifically. Better to have it fully awakened and harmonized than vulnerable during partial emergence. The logic was sound, though Tsunade's reluctance stemmed from more than professional medical concern. The accelerating pace of elemental manifestations carried cumulative strain, regardless of Naruto's extraordinary adaptation capabilities. After further discussion, they reached consensus. Naruto would attempt facilitated Earth awakening in the deep caverns the following morning, with Kuritsuchi providing guidance and resonance support. Mei would maintain water security around the site, while Tsunade would monitor medical aspects throughout the process. Meanwhile, Kakashi would implement enhanced village defenses specifically designed to detect and contain Earth-based infiltration. Utilizing knowledge gained from analyzing the corrupted crystals extracted from the patrol members. One final consideration, Mei noted as their planning concluded. If Naruto successfully awakens 3 elements, he'll present an unprecedented concentration of elemental power. The remaining hunters, air and lightning, will likely coordinate rather than attack individually. Let them. Naruto responded with quiet confidence. Each awakening provides better understanding of the process. By the time they arrive, we'll be prepared for coordinated response. As the meeting dispersed, Tsunade requested Naruto remain behind. When the others had departed, she closed the office door and turned to him with the direct gaze that had always cut through his bravado to the truth beneath. Your Earth consciousness communicated more clearly than you admitted during the extraction procedures, she stated rather than asked. Naruto nodded, unsurprised by her perception. It had more to say than I shared publicly. About the hunters. About everything. He sighed, sinking into a chair as the day's exertions finally registered in his human physiology. The elements are connected, even when separated by vessels or distance. Earth recognizes the corruption in Iwao's manifestation and considers it abomination, unnatural dominance rather than partnership. That's consistent with what we've observed, Tsunade noted, taking the seat opposite him. What else? The awakening sequence isn't random, he explained. Fire, water, earth, air, lightning, it follows natural creation patterns. Fire provides initial energy, water enables fluid change, earth establishes form, air creates space for movement, lightning sparks life within the created form. The elements are recreating primal patterns within you. Tsunade realized, the implications registering in her expression. Not just awakening individually but establishing an integrated system. Exactly. Earth made it clear, the sequence matters. Rushing awakening risks disrupting natural integration, which directly contradicts our plan for tomorrow, she pointed out with justified concern. Not exactly, Naruto clarified. Earth isn't opposing facilitated awakening, just emphasizing that it must follow correct patterns. The deep caverns provide natural resonance that supports proper sequence rather than forced manifestation. Tsunade studied him with a penetrating gaze that seemed to assess both his physical condition and deeper determination. There's more you're not saying. He hesitated. The Earth consciousness urging transparency while human complexity suggested discretion. The elements have perspectives on connections beyond themselves. On people, relationships, potential futures. Including opinions on me, Tsunade surmised. Recalling their previous conversation about elemental observations. Yes, the admission hung between them, neither elaborated upon nor dismissed. And what does Earth contribute to these perspectives? Her tone remained professional, though something in her expression suggested personal interest beneath clinical curiosity. Foundation, Naruto answered simply. Recognition of compatible strengths, enduring connections, natural affinities that transcend conventional boundaries. Poetic, she noted with a hint of deflective humor. Your elemental vocabulary continues expanding impressively. Not my vocabulary, he corrected gently. Theirs. I'm just the translator. This distinction seemed to affect her more profoundly than expected. She rose from her chair, moving to the window where evening had painted Konoha in deep indigo shadows. When she spoke again, her voice carried complexity beyond their immediate discussion. These elements are ancient, Naruto. Their perspective spans millennia while humans measure significant time in decades. What appears as fundamental truth to them might be impractical reality for us. You're talking about more than awakening sequences, he observed, standing to join her at the window. I'm talking about responsibilities, positions, expectations. She turned to face him, professional distance momentarily set aside. About the complexity of human relationships versus the elemental drive toward natural harmony. The air between them charged with unspoken acknowledgement, recognition of connection beyond mentor and student. Beyond medical supervisor and subject, beyond former Hokage and potential successor. Earth values foundation, Naruto said finally. Not just in physical manifestation but in truth and authenticity. It sees artificial constructs, like arbitrary age considerations or hierarchical positions, as temporary surfaces over enduring bedrock. And fire? She asked, Somethi, invulnerable flickering beneath her composed exterior. Fire recognizes kindred heat, the passion for life and protection that drives you beyond conventional limits. He held her gaze steadily. It sees not age but timeless vitality, not position but essential nature. And water? The question came softer, testing boundaries she herself had established. Water perceives the depth beneath calm surfaces. The currents of emotion controlled but not diminished by professional necessity. He stepped closer, elemental consciousness lending conviction beyond youthful uncertainty. It recognizes I.N.U. the same fluid adaptability that defines its nature, changing form without changing essence. The moment expanded between them, possibility suspended in perfect balance between prudent restraint and authentic acknowledgement. Tsunade's expression reflected the conflict he'd observed increasingly over recent weeks. Disciplined responsibility warring with genuine connection. Before either could bridge the remaining distance, a sharp knock interrupted the moment. The door opened to reveal an Anbu operative, the third urgent arrival of the day signaling another development requiring immediate attention. Lady Tsunade, Lord Hokage requests your presence in the Sensor Division headquarters immediately. Our perimeter detection system has registered massive seismic disturbance approaching from the north, consistent with advanced Earth manipulation on an unprecedented scale. The professional mask slid back into place with practiced efficiency. Tell Kakashi we're on our way. Alert Mei and Kuretsuchi as well. As the Anbu departed, Tsunade turned back to Naruto with renewed focus. It seems your Earth Hunter has decided not to wait for morning. Then Earth won't wait either, he responded, feeling the elemental consciousness stirring with anticipation rather than apprehension. If Iwao wants confrontation, we'll give him manifestation. The Sensor Division headquarters hummed with urgent activity when they arrived. Specialized detection arrays monitored chakra disturbances throughout Fire Country, with particular focus on the northern quadrant where massive seismic anomalies registered on multiple systems. Kakashi stood at the central monitoring station with Shikamaru and division specialists. A large tactical display showed Konoha at its center with concentric perimeter lines indicating detection boundaries. Red pulses marked the advancing disturbance, now approximately 15 kilometers north of the village and moving steadily closer. Seismic activity began 30 minutes ago, Kakashi explained as Naruto and Tsunade joined him. Initial assessment suggested natural earthquake, but pattern analysis confirms deliberate chakra manipulation. Someone is literally moving the earth toward us. Iwao making good on his threat, Naruto concluded. The mountain coming to the vessel. Scale suggests something beyond individual capability, Shikamaru noted, studying displacement calculations. Even accounting for elemental enhancement. Unless he's tapped directly into tectonic boundaries, Tsunade suggested. Pure earth manipulation could theoretically access existing fault lines, redirecting natural geological pressure. Mei and Kuretsuchi arrived moments later, immediately assessing the tactical display with professional expertise. This resembles the mountain flowing technique, Kuretsuchi observed grimly, an ancient stone village forbidden jutsu that temporarily liquefies terrain to redirect geological formations. But the scale is impossible. It would require chakra equivalent to multiple cage-level shinobi. Or one Earth Hunter drawing directly from corrupted elemental consciousness, Mei countered. We've seen both Kagami and Mizuchi demonstrate capabilities far beyond conventional jutsu limitations. Further discussion halted as new alerts sounded across monitoring stations. The display updated to show massive terrain deformity. On approaching the village's northern boundary, a literal wave of earth rolling toward Konoha like ocean surf in slow motion. Evacuation protocols, Tsunade asked sharply. Already implementing southwestern quadrant emergency relocation. Kakashi confirmed. Estimated impact in 45 minutes at current advance rate. We need to intercept before it reaches civilian areas, Naruto decided. Earth consciousness now fully alert within him despite incomplete awakening. The deep caverns might provide necessary access points to counter from below rather than confronting the wave directly. Exactly what I was considering. Kuretsuchi nodded approval. Subsurface approach utilizing natural stone formations to disperse the liquefaction effect. I can provide water pressure countermeasures, May added. Synchronized hydraulic resistance against the advancing wave. And I'll coordinate medical response teams, Tsunade concluded. Both for potential casualties and specialized chakra disruption treatment if needed. Kakashi authorized their approach, dispatching Anbu support teams to provide perimeter security while keeping direct confrontation forces at minimum. Experience with P. Previous hunters suggesting conventional shinobi were more liability than asset against pure elemental manipulation. They moved with practiced efficiency, proceeding to the deep caverns access point near the Hokage monument. Unlike the ceremonial spaces carved into the cliff face above, these ancient formations extended deep beneath the village, natural stone chambers enhanced by generations of style users for specialized training and research. The main entrance had been sealed for routine safety, but Kuretsuchi quickly created an access point through precisely applied earth techniques. Beyond the entrance, stone stairs descended into darkness illuminated only by phosphorescent minerals embedded in the walls, natural light sources activated by chakra proximity. The primary resonance chamber is 2 levels down. Kakashi informed them, having accessed these restricted areas during his own Anbu service. A natural formation where multiple earth chakra convergence points intersect. As they descended deeper, the ambient energy became palpable even to non-earth users. The stone itself seemed alive with ancient chakra, not individual signatures but accumulated elemental presence UILT over centuries of natural concentration. The partial earth consciousness within Naruto responded immediately to this environment, stirring with recognition and anticipation. Unlike fire's eager awakening or water's fluid emergence, earth approached full manifestation with deliberate patience, gathering strength methodically rather than bursting forth dramatically. When they reached the primary resonance chamber, the reason for its significance became immediately apparent. The perfectly circular cavern extended nearly 30 meters in diameter, its dome ceiling supported by natural stone columns that formed precise geometric patterns. The floor featured intricate crystal formations arranged in spiraling designs that captured and reflected the phosphorescent light, creating an ethereal atmosphere of green-gold illumination. Most impressive was the central formation, a massive crystal column rising from floor to ceiling, its multi-layered structure suggesting countless geological ages of formation. This central pillar pulsed with visible earth chakra, the energy flowing in steady rhythms through crystalline veins throughout the chamber. The heart of stone, Kuretsuchi breathed reverently. I've heard it described in our historical texts, but seeing it. She shook her head in wonder. Our equivalent formation in the stone village is 1/3 this size. The convergence point for all major earth chakra lines in Fire Country, Kakashi confirmed. Traditionally accessed only by Hokage and specialized earth researchers. Naruto felt drawn toward the central column, earth consciousness within him resonating powerfully with the ancient formation. As he approached, the crystal's pulsing energy synchronized with his own chakra rhythm, recognition between kindred forces. This will work, he stated with certainty born of elemental awareness rather than human assessment. The resonance is perfect for completed awakening. We should establish monitoring parameters first, Tsunade cautioned. Medical concerns foremost despite the urgency. Full awakening carries significant physiological impact. No time, Kuretsuchi countered, indicating a monitoring study. On where Anbu operators tracked the approaching Earth wave. Impact in 28 minutes. We need Earth fully manifested before direct confrontation. Tsunade conceded the point with reluctance. Minimal safeguards then. Kuretsuchi guides the process, May maintains hydration support, I'll monitor vital functions directly. They positioned themselves accordingly, Naruto at the chamber's center before the crystal column. Kuretsuchi beside him to provide experienced guidance, Mei creating a supportive water field to prevent dehydration during energy expenditure, and Tsunade maintaining direct medical supervision. Kakashi and support personnel established a perimeter, preparing for potential complications while maintaining communication with surface teams tracking the approaching threat. Remember, Earth responds to stability and certainty, Kuretsuchi instructed as Naruto prepared for full contact with the crystal. Not passion like fire or adaptability like water, but unwavering purpose and foundational truth. Naruto nodded, centering himself as the partial Earth consciousness gathered strength within him. Fire and water elements had settled into supportive background presence, intuitively understanding that Earth's moment had arrived. Ready yourself, the Earth voice rumbled through his awareness. Awakening approaches not with flame's sudden illumination or water's fluid embrace, but with mountain's inexorable rise. Foundations first, then structure, finally completion. Taking a deep breath, Naruto placed both palms against the central crystal column. The connection was immediate and profound. The resonance chambers accumulated earth chakra flowing into him not as invasive force but as recognized kindred returning home. Unlike previous awakenings, no external manifestation immediately appeared. Instead, the change occurred internally, chakra pathways solidifying and expanding simultaneously, creating space for Earth's consciousness to fully integrate without disrupting existing elemental harmony. I am stone, the Earth consciousness introduced itself formally. Pillar of creation, foundation of form, embodiment of endurance. I recognize this vessel as worthy through demonstrated stability of purpose and clarity of intent. Images flooded Naruto's awareness. Ancient mountains rising from primordial seas, continents forming and shifting over millennia. The slow dance of geological forces shaping and reshaping the world's foundation. Earth's perspective encompassed timeframes that made human lifespans seem momentary, yet focused with precise attention on immediate circumstances. The corrupted wielder approaches, stone observed with rumbling disapproval. One who seeks to dominate rather than partner, to command rather than commune. He forces movement upon that which should move only with purpose and proper time. Through this elemental connection, Naruto perceived what conventional sensors couldn't, the approaching earth waves int. RNAL structure and the corrupted consciousness directing it. Iwao wasn't simply manipulating earth, he was forcing geological formations to move against their nature, creating instability that would eventually collapse catastrophically. I can see it, he reported to the others, voice resonating with Earth's deepening influence. Iwao is creating unsustainable liquefaction. The wave appears solid but flows with internal instability. When it reaches the village boundary, it will solidify suddenly, crushing everything in its path before collapsing inward. Can you counter it? Kakashi asked directly. Not by opposing force with force, Naruto replied, earth wisdom flowing through his understanding. But by restoring proper foundation beneath, supporting natural stone integrity against corrupted influence. As he spoke, physical manifestation finally began appearing, not as dramatic as fire's flames or water's fluid transformation, but as gradual earth integration with his form. His skin took on subtle stone-like qualities, not rigid but flexible living stone that moved naturally with his body. Most notably, his eyes transformed, blue irises gaining complex crystalline patterning depth. Chi captured and reflected light like the formations surrounding them. Full manifestation, Kuretsuchi confirmed with satisfaction. Earth has accepted him completely. Vital signs stable, Tsunade added with evident relief. Network integration proceeding without complication. Naruto straightened, 3 elemental consciousnesses now fully awakened within him, fire's passionate drive, water's fluid adaptability, and Earth's unwavering foundation creating balanced harmony rather than competing dominance. We need to move to the northern boundary, he stated with quiet authority. Underground. Approach using the natural cave system to emerge ahead of the wave. Confrontation must occur before it reaches village structures. The old mining tunnels provide access, Kakashi confirmed. Anbu teams are already securing the route. They moved swiftly through the cavern system, Naruto and Kuretsuchi using earth awareness to navigate optimal paths while Mei and Tsunade maintained support positions. The tunnels grew narrower and less refined as they approached the village boundary, eventually transitioning from worked stone to natural formations. Impact in 12 minutes, an Anbu Oper. Ativ reported through communication jutsu. Wave has accelerated and now stands approximately 15 meters high at leading edge. Civilians. Tsunade demanded. Evacuation 87% complete. Northern district still being cleared. They reached a junction where the tunnel system approached surface level near the northern boundary. Through Earth sensitivity, both Naruto and Uchi could feel the massive displacement approaching, millions of tons of soil and stone flowing unnaturally across the landscape. Here, Naruto decided, placing his palm against the tunnel ceiling. Earth chakra flowed from his hand into the stone, creating a perfect vertical shaft leading to the surface. We emerge here, establish counterforce foundation, then engage directly if necessary. They ascended swiftly, emerging onto open ground approximately half a kilometer beyond Konoha's formal boundary. From this vantage point, the approaching earth wave became visible, a massive rippling formation of soil, stone and uprooted vegetation rolling toward them like a tsunami in slow motion. At its leading edge, a figure stood calmly, a middle-aged man with stone-gray hair and eyes, wearing ing attire just as described by the patrol survivors. Iwao, Kuretsuchi confirmed grimly. And fully channeling corrupted earth. The hunter hadn't noticed their emergence yet, his attention focused on maintaining the massive earth wave's movement. This gave them precious moments to establish countermeasures before direct confrontation. Kuretsuchi, left flank foundation support, Naruto directed with natural authority. Mei, right flank hydraulic pressure to slow advance rate. I'll establish central counterforce directly. They moved to positions without questioning the strategy, his multi-PLE elemental awakening providing comprehensive understanding that transcended individual specialization. Earth consciousness gave him perfect awareness of geological weaknesses, water showed hydraulic pressure points, while fire illuminated energy distribution throughout the massive formation. Kneeling, Naruto placed both palms against the ground. Unlike Iwao's corrupting force, he didn't attempt to oppose the Earth's movement directly. Instead, he communicated with the Earth itself, awakening its natural tendency toward stability and proper formation. Return to true nature, he projected through Earth consciousness. Not forced movement but proper structure. Not liquid flow but solid foundation. The response was gradual but unmistakable. The ground beneath them solidified more completely. Natural stone formations strengthening against the approaching liquefaction. This stabilization spread outward from Naruto's position, creating an advancing wave of proper geological integrity that met the corrupted formation. Where they connected, natural order began reasserting itself, sections of the massive wave slowing, then settling back into normal terrain patterns as Earth recognized its true nature. The effect spread like ripples through the formation, destabilizing Iwao's control progressively rather than catastrophically. The hunter finally noticed this counterforce, his EXPR. Eshin shifting from serene concentration to surprised displeasure. With a sharp gesture, he redirected his wave's momentum, attempting to bypass the strengthened ground by flowing around rather than through. He's adapting, Kuretsuchi called, expanding her own earth stabilization to counter this maneuver. Attempting flanking liquefaction to reach the village indirectly. I see it, Naruto confirmed, rising to his feet as the confrontation transitioned from indirect influence to direct engagement. Time to introduce ourselves properly. He stepped forward, earth manifestation now fully visible, living stone quality extending across his skin, crystalline eyes reflecting determination beyond mere human resolve. Fire and water remained present but secondary, supporting Earth's primacy in this specific confrontation. Iwao of the Eternal Mountain, he called, voice carrying with Earth's resonant authority. Your corruption ends here. The hunter's attention fixed on Naruto, recognition and calculation replacing surprise. The vessel of multiple elements, he acknowledged, ceasing advancement to study this unexpected development. I sensed Earth awakening, but not full manifestation. Interesting acceleration of natural patterns. Natural response to unnatural threat, Naruto countered, continuing forward at measured pace. You force Earth against its nature, movement without purpose, destruction without necessity. Quote, I liberate Earth from constraint, Iwao corrected with genuine conviction. Human boundaries are meaningless to elemental truth. Villages, nations, borders. Artificial limitations imposed on forces that existed before humans learned to walk upright. Yet you impose your will on the element itself, Kuretsuchi interjected, joining Naruto with her own earth manifestation visible. Forcing movement contrary to geological stability. True liberation would respect Earth's nature, not command it. Iwao's expression hardened, gaze shifting between the two Earth vessels with growing hostility. Two flawed connections rather than one. The stone deserves better vessels than humans who compartmentalize its power to serve their limited perspectives. Partnership isn't compartmentalization. Naruto responded evenly. We work with the elements, not upon them. The Earth consciousness itself recognizes the difference. Consciousness. Iwao's laughter held bitter edge. Elements don't think as humans do, they exist as pure force, pure purpose. Their will is straightforward, expression without constraint. What you interpret as partnership is merely element adapting to limited vessel capacity. As this exchange continued, Mei had methodically established water pressure countermeasures around the perimeter, while Tsunade coordinated with Anbu teams to secure evacuation routes. The Earth wave had halted temporarily but remained poised for renewed advance at Iwao's direction. Your elemental equilibrium fundamentally misunderstands the elements you claim to serve, Naruto stated. Earth wisdom flowing through his words. Balance isn't achieved through separation and purity, but through harmonious interaction. Earth without water becomes desert. Fire without air extinguishes. Lightning without earth dissipates without purpose. Philosophical debates won't save your village, Iwao dismissed, raising his hands to resume his technique. Massive earth formation began moving again, though notably slower against their established countermeasures. Experience the mountain's judgment directly. The confrontation shifted from verbal to elemental as Iwao directed his full corrupted power toward Konoha. Rather than opposing this force directly, Naruto and Kuretsuchi implemented coordinated response, not stopping the Earth's movement redirecting it through established channels that dispersed energy safely. Guide rather than oppose, Stone advised within Naruto. Earth respects direction that acknowledges its strength rather than force that attempts dominance. Following this wisdom, Naruto placed both hands on the ground, sending Earth chakra deep into the substrate. Rather than creating barriers, he established flow patterns, natural channels that directed the liquefied Earth around rather than through populated areas. Kuretsuchi recognized the strategy immediately, implementing complementary techniques to reinforce these pathways. Together, they created a complex network of Earth channels that accepted Iwao's massive wave while dispersing its destructive potential, like redirecting a river through carefully GNED tributaries rather than attempting to dam its flow entirely. Impressive adaptation, Iwao acknowledged, increasing power to overcome these measures. But ultimately futile. True Earth mastery doesn't guide, it commands. With this declaration, he slammed both fists into the ground. The Earth responded with violent upheaval, not just the wave formation but the entire landscape for kilometers surrounding. The ground buckled and fractured, massive fissures opening as tectonic pressure released unnaturally. He's forcing fault line activation, Kuretsuchi shouted over the thunderous rumbling. Destabilizing the entire regional geological structure. Evacuation status, Tsunade demanded through communication jutsu. Northern District still 23% occupied, came the urgent response. Earthquake magnitude exceeds structural tolerance of older buildings. Collapse imminent without intervention. Naruto felt Earth consciousness surge with profound disapproval at this CK-less manipulation, Iwao's actions violating fundamental principles of geological stability. Unlike previous confrontations where strategy proved sufficient, this escalation required direct intervention. He called. Decision crystallizing with Earth's certainty, hydraulic suspension beneath the Northern District, create fluid cushioning to absorb seismic shock. The former Mizukage nodded, immediately focusing her water manifestation toward this protective application. Drawing moisture from ground and air, she created an expanding network of pressurized water beneath threatened structures, not enough to prevent all damage, but sufficient to prevent catastrophic collapse. Kuretsuchi, continuation channels, direct fracture energy away from population centers. She responded with immediate understanding. Extending their previous network to accommodate the new threat, creating pathways that guided seismic energy toward uninhabited areas where it could dissipate harmlessly. Tsunade, I need medical chakra infusion, precision enhancement for what comes next. Though surprised by this unusual request, Tsunade approached without hesitation, hands already glowing with prepared medical energy. What specifically? Network synchronization, he explained rapidly, Earth consciousness providing technical understanding beyond his human training. Multiple element manifestation Riku, Iris perfect chakra circulation timing for maximum efficiency. Your chakra control can provide external synchronization. Understanding immediately, she placed her hands on his back, channeling Pracy. Scion medical chakra to harmonize his network's timing. The effect was immediate and profound. Fire, water, and earth elements suddenly functioning in perfect concert rather than sequential coordination. With this enhanced integration, Naruto confronted Iwao directly. Earth manifestation remained primary, but now supported by fire's transformative energy and water's fluid adaptation, 3 elements working simultaneously rather than individually. You've corrupted Earth's purpose, he stated, voice carrying harmonized elemental resonance that transcended human speech. True equilibrium requires balance, not dominance. Allow me to demonstrate. Before Iwao could respond, Naruto implemented comprehensive elemental counteraction. Through Earth, he stabilized fracturing terrain, not by opposing tectonic movement but by guiding pressure release through natural channels. Through water, he lubricated geological boundaries to prevent catastrophic friction. Through fire, he provided transformative on energy that converted potential destruction into controlled release. The combined effect manifested as visible energy flowing from Naruto into the surrounding landscape, golden-red fire lines, blue-green water patterns, and brown-amber earth structures creating an integrated network that rapidly established geological harmony. Iwao's expression shifted from confident dominance to bewildered D.'s belief as his corrupted control rapidly diminished. The massive earth wave disintegrated not through destructive opposition but harmonic dissolution, returning to natural formation patterns as elemental balance restored proper structure. Impossible, he whispered, redoubling his efforts to maintain corruption. No vessel can harmonize multiple elements simultaneously without catastrophic internal conflict. Not through dominance, Naruto agreed, continuing his harmonization process uninterrupted. Only through partnership, through recognition of each element's essential nature and purpose. The earth rumbled one final time before settling into stability, tectonic pressure released through controlled microfractures rather than devastating earthquake. The landscape around them bore evidence of significant disruption, broken ground, shifted terrain, relocated vegetation, but the catastrophic destruction Iwao had intended had been averted entirely. As his corrupted technique collapsed completely, the hunter stumbled backward, disbelief giving way to desperate anger. You think this victory, this temporary stability, the elemental equilibrium transcends individual vessels. Others will come. Air and lightning hunters already approach. And beyond them, the Master of Five awaits. Master of Five, Naruto questioned, maintaining vigilance despite the immediate threat's subsidence. The end. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next video.